your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
Need one.
I don't know.
Let's hold that money.
Hold
Thank you.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru. Uhuru comrades, welcome everybody to today's program. I really want to just salute the opening video. I want to salute everybody that I see coming onto tonight's meeting. And before I go any further, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I have the great honor of serving as the chairperson of this most dynamic campaign, the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fightback Coalition, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and just led by the people's fight for justice, for freedom, for liberation. And I want to welcome up my co-MC for today's program, comrade, Chairwoman Penny Hess, who is one of the Uhuru 3 chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee. And we do have the Uhuru 3 with us today, which you will also hear from, but I just wanted to say welcome to you, comrade. I know we have a really great program on today.
Uhuru, Chair Mawezi, and Uhuru to everybody that's on. I'm so excited by this event today. There's going to be some amazing comrades here, so let's get started. It's an honor to be here.
Right on. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to pull up a PowerPoint just to give us a quick overview. And again, just to say that many of you who are on today's meeting have been with us from the very start. Many of you have been, expressing your deep unity with this struggle, this fight for free speech. But we want to continue to spread this around the world and have others on. So we're out calling on everybody right now to share today's program. Tell your friends, your family to go to handsoffuhuru.org/register and join us on today's webinar. So thank you all for those of you who have already done that. Uhuru from St. Louis, Uhuru Sister Lisa, I just caught that in the chat. I had to give you a shout out. So next slide. We are here on behalf of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. This is a formation that formed on July 8th of 2023. And this was, to build this anti-colonial free speech movement. So we're really honored to have you all be a part of this. Many of you who are members of this dynamic coalition. And on today, we are claiming and we are making the cry for victory to the Uhuru 3. We are making it clear that it's not over and that we need to pack the courthouse for the sentencing on November 25th as this fight back continues, and we will fight until it is won. And so we want to thank you for coming on to today's program. And we're really, as I said, honored to have with us Chairman Amalia Shatella, Chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, leader of the Uhuru movement, and just a remarkable veteran in the African liberation struggle. We're very honored to have the chairman with us, who you will be hearing from on today, as well as I had already said, Chairwoman Penny Hess, Chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, all three who were indicted by these bogus charges by the FBI and the Department of Justice on being Russian agents and to sow a conspiracy and discord. And we're going to talk about all of that on today. And we also have a really dynamic program who I'll say more about who you're going to hear from on today. Many of the organizations who have been with us, along this journey. So just to say a few things about the case of the Uhuru 3, we are really clear that this case has impacted and will continue to impact the future of free speech. The significance of this case, allows us to bring into the fold the question of democracy, anti-colonial free speech, and all of this that has arisen out of this counteroffensive to these bogus charges, and that this fight and how we fight, comrades, and how we win will determine the future of free speech, undoubtedly. It is clear that this was a test case and that the case of the Uhuru 3 is, the most serious political assault on the struggle for African liberation movement since the 1960s. And on today, the most serious political assault on free speech alone. So we really want to make it clear that when the FBI carried out these violent and coordinated, violent attacks, these military style raids on 7 homes and properties of the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party in 2022, the US government indicted Chairman Amalia Shatella and Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who are 2, organizers who work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party for the Solidarity, wing. And, on these bogus charges of being Russian agents for exercising their right to free speech, to advocate for the liberation of African people. And, it's clear that one thing that we did as the people is that we stood up and we fought back. And we have been fighting back for the past, 2 years in this struggle and, taking us all the way up to building a united front, this anti-colonial free speech coalition, which has brought in droves of organizations and supporters, over 150, even more than that now, organized, endorsing organizations and individuals. And we want to salute everybody who is a part of this fight back. And as as we were leading up towards this fight back, we made the call on everybody to recognize the 1964 Freedom Summer, and that this in 2024 was no different. And we said all out to St. Petersburg, Florida. We called on you to come from everywhere to show up for the August 31st rally, and you did. And it was so powerful. There's so much that we can say, and Penny, jump in if I'm forgetting anything, but I mean, it was just a really remarkable rally. We had
It was
such great
powerful.
speakers. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just wanted to jump in and say that I salute everybody who came out on August 31st for that amazing, amazing
Yes.
show of profound solidarity and support and unity with the African People's Socialist Party, with Chairman Omali Shatella and the Uhuru Three on August 31st, and all the people who came to the trial and packed the courtroom every day. It was powerful to see. It meant so much. We
Yeah.
thank you, we salute you. And we did win a major victory, but we cannot minimize these charges of conspiracy, quote unquote, that we are facing now, that we're going to be talking about today. I read Jesse and Chairman are going to be talking a lot about these so-called conspiracy charges that are ridiculous, because the conspiracy to do what? They don't have an object to these conspiracy charges. So, the situation doesn't make sense. But they are continuing as part of the attempt to isolate and criminalize the African liberation movement. And the attack on Jesse and myself are part of that, a part of the attack on the chairman. And just to say quickly, as people probably know, Jesse and I are members of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people under the leadership of Chairman Omali Shatella and the African People's Socialist Party. And again, the attack on Jesse and me are part of the attack on the chairman. But we are the voice of the African liberation movement and the African People's Socialist Party in the white community. The call for reparations, they tried to attack all of the ideas and that we have been mandated to take out into the white community under the leadership of the party. But I just want to say, I salute all the solidarity comrades all around the country and everywhere, everybody. But in particular, I do want to say I support and salute other white people who are standing firm to say that they will not silence us as members of the solidarity movement under Chairman Omali Shatella's leadership. And we will stand firm that we will not let them do anything or lift a finger to Chairman Omali Shatella. We are taking this on. So I just wanted to say that we will stand up and fight back for the right of African people to struggle for their liberation. That is in our interest and ultimately our liberation. So
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Chairwoman Penny. Yes, and I think it's really important for us to see this as as we say, and as we heard in that video, Comrade Omali, Omowale Clay saying, "Touch one, touch all," and this is in our interest. And so, just to what we have here on the screen here is what Chairwoman Penny raised. These bogus charges of being quote unquote Russian, foreign agents working for a foreign government, and in this case, the Russian government, which carried a 10-year prison sentence, as well as conspiracy, which also carried a 5-year sentence. And we're going to be talking more about this. But what the DOJ attempted to do by these bogus charges was to say that everything that the Uhuru movement has done for these years, in terms of even just speeches, has become, these overt acts, right, that this government tried to use to really to threaten to blow a massive hole in the First Amendment. And so we understand that this is, as the chairman had said, the Uhuru Three were not guilty and are not guilty of these bogus charges. And again, we understand that it is the US government and the colonial state who are the real criminals, and their bloody track record of, harassing, surveilling and genociding the people, and, and assassinating African and Indigenous leaders, who were fighting on the side of freedom. So we just want to say that on September 3rd, the free speech trial of the century took place in a federal courtroom in Tampa, Florida. And this is where we can say boldly that the US government lied and lost, and that the Uhuru movement told the truth and won. And we say this because this was a victory. This was a political victory. And we're actually going to read, coming up soon, you're going to hear the official statement of the Uhuru movement, of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back on this verdict, right? And so we're going to hear more about that, and we're going to invite you to share that widely. But again, for everybody to know that the jury found the Uhuru Three not guilty of being Russian agents. as Chairman Amalia Shatella, well, and just to say that, we really want to salute this, jury, right, who made an informed conclusion based on the truth about who we are, who the African People's Socialist Party is, what they stand for, and what they've always stood for, and essentially to make it clear that we work for Black people, for colonized people, and that the Uhuru movement cannot be bought, and that they will not stop until it's won. And as the chairman has said, the most important thing that the U.S. government and the prosecutors were unable to convict us on was working for anybody except Black people. And that's really powerful. And we just want to, and a lot of this information that we're talking about on today, you're going to be putting this out to the world, because this is the truth, that the prosecutors deliberately misled and confused the jury into returning an inconsistent verdict that acquitted the Uhuru Three, as we said, of being Russian agents, while at the same time convicting them on these bogus, quote unquote, conspiracy charges that carry a maximum prison sentence of 5 years. So we're going to be talking more about how we're fighting back against that. And that is why you're here today, because you're going to be learning about how you can come to the sentencing. But I want to just take a moment to give some more salutes. Chairwoman Woman Penny already got us started on this, but to salute our brilliant attorneys, two of whom you don't see in this picture, Angela Rainey and Tom Inskeep, but I really want to salute Addie Griffin, Mutaki Akbar, and Leonard Goodman, who represented the Uhuru Three brilliantly. As we know, the United States government brought, dozens of witnesses and, they're mercenaries, and they could not find anybody to testify against the Uhuru Three. And also to say that this trial that was supposed to last weeks, you remember us telling you, come for a whole month, lasted for only about 10 days. And that shows, even more about how this United States government tried to assault this movement, but instead we used this trial to inform the people, to educate the people, to provide political education. And you hear our lawyers in the courtroom saying that, Amalia Shatella is a revolutionary. He cannot be bought, making it clear about who we stand for, and are saluting, Comrade Leonard and our attorney, Leonard Goodman, who wrote these, countless, motions to dismiss this case, but we brought it into that courtroom, and it was a glorious fight. And part of getting us there was our donors. And we're going to continue to, talk more about how important those donations were in getting us to the courthouse, helping us to fight these charges. But we just really cannot go any further without support, without thanking and saluting everybody who donated from $1 to $10,000. Your donations meant everything for us to be able to go into that courtroom, as we said, with our bulletproof defense. I want to again salute all of the supporters, those who came out on the ground, made the time to come to Tampa, Florida, as well as those who couldn't, but were still standing in solidarity and holding protests and whatnot. All of that was so important. Our volunteers, there's so much that we can say about the work of our relentless volunteers, but from those who provided translation in French and in Spanish, to those who were the court reporters coming out and relaying again what just happened, to our brilliant media team who was able to put this out for the world so that those of you who weren't there were able to hear exactly what happened, our public relations, our social media, the media coverage, our sketch artists who had brilliant sketches. And there's so much more that we will be putting out that you'll be able to see in photo albums, just the amazing sketch work of our sketch artists, showing all of the supporters, as well as everybody who was not on the ground, not even just in the not even just in St. Pete, but not in the United States, but in London and in South Africa. These comrades were out there on September 3rd, making the demand to drop the charges on the Uhuru Three. And here's just a few photos of the comrades in London and in St. Pete. So as I wrap up this PowerPoint, I just want to say and make it clear that we understand that we continue to salute the 50 years of struggle of Black freedom that has been led by Chairman Amalia Shatella and the African liberation struggle historically.
You're doing good.
Uhuru, thank you, comrade. Oh, thank you, timekeeper. And what you can do, comrades, is what you're going to be learning in today's meeting, that we want everybody to learn about how you can write these character letters that we're going to need before the sentencing, and the deadline for that is coming up very soon. So you're going to hear more about that. We want to remind everybody to continue to donate to this fight back at handsoffuhuru.org. and also to march on the White House, which you will hear more about. We are taking this fight back straight to the belly of the beast. And again, we're calling on you to attend the November 25th sentencing hearing. And you can do all of this by going to handsoffuhuru.org and learning more. And we're calling on you to help us reach our goal on today to raise $2,000 towards the Hands Off Uhuru Defense Campaign. And if you can, and if you are not already, to even consider becoming a sustaining donor, because the fight for the appeal and to fight these charges is going to take months, and your continuous donations help us to know that this fight back will continue. So go to handsoffuhuru.org to make your donation. And I don't know if I have time to read this next section, but so I may have to skip it, but I do want to just really, acknowledge the chairman's leadership. And one thing that the chairman has said is okay, great. I'm going to just go ahead and read this last part. How what the US government did was that they used law to come at us for political reasons, right? And we're going to continue to use this counter offensive to, fight back against, counterinsurgency. And as we continue to fight back, comrades, we're going to be talking about how we're going to appeal these bogus charges, how we're going to repeal, and fight back against this 951 and this Foreign Agent Registration Act and these laws that we see being used across the board, not just with the Uhuru 3, but that, as the chairman has said, was the canary in the coal mine and really opened the door. And one last thing to close up this presentation, just to show that, again, the message has always been the same. One of the pieces of documents and documented work of the African People's Socialist Party and the chairman is the dialectics for a Black revolution in 1990 in the Freedom Week and speech that the chairman gave in St. Petersburg, Florida. And in chapter 4 of this theory of counterinsurgency, we want to read a quote that we found is just so telling, like in terms of where we are right now. So here's the chairman quoting: "I want to tell you why we're doing this. We are clear that the debate cannot be made with the system around the validity for the struggle of Black power or for African revolution. We're not interested in arguing with a judge or a policeman about whether or not the revolution is good or bad. What we have to do is deepen the crisis for the social system itself. This social system at this time and place in history has a contradiction in that on one hand, it is absolutely necessary for it to repress the African masses, while on the other hand, it is necessary for it to pose as this beacon of democracy. So what we want to do is to make it to have to deal with the question of democracy, and not the question of revolution. It is our responsibility to make the revolution, to win revolutionary forces throughout the community, while at the same time posing for the whole social system and everybody in it the question of democracy. Make it so that they have to deal with democracy." Chairman says, "When I go to court, I'm not arguing about whether the Black revolution is fine. I'm arguing that I have a right to be a revolutionary because they said in their constitution that it's permitted. We're not trying to win judges. We're trying to win the masses. We're not trying to win the state to agree that revolution is good. We're trying to present it with the contradiction that is inherent in itself. At some juncture, the system has to say that democracy is just good for white people. That's all right. The masses need to hear that. And if you clarify that, then it changes the conditions all down the line. The system must say that or continue to pretend, as they do right now, that democracy is for everybody. What I want them to deal with is democracy. Don't deal with the revolution. We'll handle that, Uhuru." So with that, comrades, it's not over. Say hands off the Uhuru 3, and let's continue this fight back. And we're going to go ahead and get into today's program. So Uhuru. Uhuru. All right. So next up, just a reminder again, comrades, our chat moderators will continue to put in the chat any links that we need, but we want to remind people that we have our goal to raise $2,000, and we want to get there before we get to the appeal so we can use this program to hear from our great speakers. So it's my honor now to bring up a very dear and beloved comrade, Comrade Janaba Phillips. Comrade Jainaba Lumumba, who is a veteran in the Uhuru movement, one of the RGB babies, been around for a very long time. And Comrade Jainaba is gonna do us the honor of reading the official statement on the verdict, which was developed and written by Chairman Amalia Shatella on behalf of the Uhuru Three. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Comrade Jainaba. Welcome, and it's great to see you. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Uhuru, hands off Uhuru.
Hands up,
Hands
Africa.
off Africa. I'm gonna get right into it. I gotta embody the spirit of chairman. The Uhuru Three verdict is in. We work for Black people, not Russia. The US government lied and lost. The Uhuru movement told the truth and won. On September 12, 2024, a jury in the federal courthouse in Tampa, Florida, repudiated the more serious charge of the US government's frame-up of the Uhuru Three by finding myself, along with Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, not guilty of being agents of the Russian government. The prosecutors unleashed a barrage of lies and distortions of the law, along with deliberately confusing jury instructions to mislead the jury into returning an inconsistent verdict, convicting us on the lesser charge of conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States, which we intend to appeal and are confident we will win. But more importantly, the jury's not guilty verdict on the Russian agents charge means that the jurors agreed with the legitimacy of our efforts to advocate for the liberation of Africa and African people. We congratulate the jury for their ability to see through the US government's attempts to criticize criticism by the African liberation movement of the US government treatment of African people in the United States. The jury rejected the bogus charge that African people require leadership from Russians or groups characterized as white to define and lead our struggle to end domestic colonialism. We salute the people's multifaceted and ubiquitous movement for anti-colonial free speech and democratic rights, whose tireless and heroic organizing contributed profoundly to this massive victory. The US government did not intend to lose their case on the charge that the Uhuru movement was working for the Russians. Their political goal was to use the foreign agent charge to deny the legitimacy of the Black liberation movement when we criticized the US government for its treatment of African people. Their charge that we are foreign agents was meant to mute the significance of our criticisms of the killings of Black men and women by police, the mass incarceration of our people, the gentrification and other forms of colonial terror in our communities by saying that it was actually the Russians who told us to say it. The US government expended a tremendous amount of resources, at least tens of millions of dollars, and hundreds of FBI agents and other government personnel to carry out this sham trial. They stole from our properties at least 13 terabytes of data, the equivalent of 2.5 million books worth of information. They put 14 witnesses on the stand to present their evidence, all of them FBI agents, except for 2 expert witnesses who admitted they knew nothing about our case and claimed they couldn't remember how much the government had paid them to testify. We defeated them without calling any witnesses to the stand. Instead, our incredible legal team used their opening and closing arguments, along with their withering cross-examination of the government's witnesses, to educate the jury about who we are and what our struggle is about. Our attorneys told the jury that Chairman Amalia Shatella is a revolutionary who is not for sale. We showed evidence of burning Spear newspapers and other political documents by our party dating back to the 1970s, illustrating that we have fought for more than 50 years for the liberation of our people. Under cross-examination, one FBI agent after another was forced to admit that there was no evidence that we ever agreed to work under the direction or control of Russia. The lead investigator from the FBI even had to admit under oath that the FBI and the DOJ knowingly lied to the people when they indicted us for election interference, despite the fact that not a shred of evidence of anything of the sort was ever identified. The jury saw right through it and was able to declare that the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela have never worked for the Russians. We have always worked for Black people. This was a political trial. The colonial state's goal was bigger than simply convicting me and putting me in prison. Their failed efforts to convince a jury that we are foreign agents was part of a larger political goal to forever discredit speech by Black people and other colonized peoples against our oppression at the hands of the US government. The US government told the jury that when we demanded reparations to our people, it was the Russians who told us to do that. The jury said no. They told the jury that when we fought to expose and end the genocide against African people in the US and around the world, it was the Russians who told us to do it. The jury said no. They told the jury that when we go around the world to win friends and allies to our struggle for freedom, it was the Russians who made us do that. The jury said no. The US government lied and they lost. We told the truth and we won. The jury saw the evidence presented both by the prosecutors and by our attorneys of our more than 5 decades of consistent revolutionary work to free our people from colonial oppression. They saw that we are principled and passionate about freedom. The jury heard me speak through videos of presentations that were screened by both sides. Our legal team was brilliant. We applaud the relentless work by our attorneys, Addie Griffin, Mutaki Akbar, Leonard Goodman, Angela Reaney, and Tom Inskeep. Here's what we're calling on everyone to do. 1, submit letters to the judge as we approach our sentencing date scheduled for November 25th, after which we intend to file a motion to appeal the conspiracy conviction. Stay tuned to handsoffuhuru.org in the coming days for more details. 2, make plans to come to Tampa, Florida on November 25th to pack the courthouse for our sentencing hearing. Details will be announced soon. 3, mobilize for a massive anti-colonial free speech mobilization in Washington, D.C. on November 2nd, 2024, the annual Black People's March on the White House, sponsored by the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. This will be an anti-colonial march led by Africans, Mexicans, Palestinians, Indigenous, Filipino, and other colonized people. 4, continue to stand with the Uhuru movement in the African liberation struggle. Support, protect, and defend our dual power programs for African working class economic development and self-determination. 5, continue to donate to the Hands Off Uhuru Legal Defense Fund at handsoffuhuru.org/donate. Finally, and this is number 6, the most important thing you can do right now is to inform the world that the US government lied and lost. The Uhuru movement told the truth and won. The verdict is in. Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party are not for sale. We have our own agency. We are our own liberators. We don't work for the Russians. We work for Black people, and we will continue to do so until all African people and the oppressed peoples of the world are free. Uhuru!
Uhuru. Powerful. Uhuru, comrade. Thank you so much, Jainaba, for delivering that powerful statement by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and we mean it when we say Uhuru. Uhuru means freedom, and there's nothing more worth fighting for, in this lifetime. And I really want to salute the chairman's powerful statement, and thank you, Comrade Jainaba, for reading that statement. And I'm going to turn it back to my co-MC on the ground in St. Louis to introduce our next speaker, Chairwoman Penny Uhuru. Oh, you're muted, actually, Comrade. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I just really want to salute Jainaba for reading that powerful statement in such a just such a dynamic way. And I have the honor of introducing my comrade and co-Uhuru 3 under the leadership of Chairman Omali Shatella, Comrade Jesse Neville. Just want to say what an important role that Comrade Jesse has played in doing and working with the legal team, the brilliant Uhuru 3 legal team, which we just saw a little bit ago, and just has really done a lot of research and finding articles and a lot about the history of the party. Just great work, comrade.
Uhuru.
So it's an honor to introduce you.
Uhuru, thank you, Chairwoman Penny. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I want to just say what an honor it is to be here on this program of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. And I will be talking about the verdict, the meaning of this verdict based on what we understand from the leadership of Chairman Omali Shatella and the way forward. And the title of the presentation I'm about to give is Conspiracy to Do What? So I want to talk about the conspiracy conviction. And first, I want to salute Chairman Omali Shatella. I want to salute that powerful statement that we just heard from Comrade Jainaba, and just salute the courageous and brilliant stand of our chairman, our leader, Chairman Omali Shatella. And in the same vein, I want to salute the courage and leadership of Deputy Chair Onozine Shatella, the Deputy Chair of the African People's Socialist Party, and all of the members of the APSP worldwide, along with Chairwoman Penny Hess, the Chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Chair Mwezi, the Chair of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, and just a brilliant leader of this campaign, along with Chairwoman Penny, and everybody in the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition. I also want to salute our legal team that has been mentioned: Mutaki Akbar, Addie Griffin, Leonard Goodman, Angela Rainey, and Tom Inskeep, who were brilliant throughout this entire process under the chairman's leadership, including in the court just earlier this month in Tampa, Florida. And I also want to shout out the National Lawyers Guild and the Civil Liberties Defense Center, in particular Lauren Reagan, who played a key role in putting together our legal team, and also Comrade Chimaranga Selambao, who played an incredibly important role in the legal fight back, the legal component of the Hands Off Uhuru counteroffensive. I want to begin with a quote from Chairman Omali Shatella that I believe helps set the political context for this discussion of the charges against us and the verdict that was reached on September 12th. The chairman said, quote, "Law is the opinion of the ruling class. Colonialism is the origin of the laws that are used to rule over Africans, Indigenous, and other colonized peoples. The colonizers create the law, but colonialism itself is illegitimate. The colonizers who own other human beings make the laws to support that and to support the society which the law serves. It may be legal, but it's illegitimate because it's based on human suffering, pillage, and rape." Those are the words of Chairman Omali Shatella. The Uhuru 3 were found not guilty of the substantive or foundational charge in the indictment, charging us with acting under the direction or control of the Russian government without notifying the Attorney General's office. On September 12th, 2024, the jury in Tampa, Florida said not guilty on that count. As the chairman has stated, the acquittal on this charge was a major political victory. The US government had the full weight of the colonial state behind them. The Uhuru 3 had the full weight of the people. The US government called 14 witnesses. The Uhuru 3 called none, and we won. The chairman and the Uhuru 3 legal team, without calling a single witness, were able to educate the jury on the African People's Socialist Party's 50-year history of principled fight for the liberation of African people, of integrity, of commitment. As a result, the jury rejected the slanderous anti-African premise of the government's case. As the chairman said on the courthouse steps that day, they were unable to prove that the Uhuru movement works for anybody except for Black people. So if the United States government knew they had no evidence, which their agents had to admit under oath, if they knowingly lied when they brought this indictment, they knew Chairman Omali Yeshitela was not a Russian agent, then why did they do this? What was the real motive behind criminally charging that the Uhuru movement's work for reparations and against genocide were products of a Russian influence campaign? The government's real motive, as the chairman explains, was to discredit and delegitimize criticism by African and colonized people of their conditions of oppression. By winning an acquittal on this baseless charge, the main front of the US government's political attack suffered a serious setback. However, the fight is far from over. The prosecutors lied, confused, and misled an otherwise honest jury into returning a wrongful conviction of the Uhuru Three on the second charge against us, a federal felony statute called 18 USC 371, conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States government. So this is what it actually says on the verdict form that the jurors had to fill out and hand in to the judge. For the Uhuru Three, the verdict forms said, guilty of count 1, conspiring to act as agents of the Russian government without notifying the Attorney General's office. Not guilty on count 2, acting as agents of the Russian government without notifying the Attorney General's office. If you're confused by what I just said, it's not because you don't understand. It means you're paying very close attention, because the verdict is inconsistent, incoherent, and illogical. Yes. If you take the verdict at face value, it would mean that the Uhuru Three thought about being Russian agents for 7 years, but never actually got around to doing it. Of course, it's total nonsense. As a matter of law, it cannot be understood in any way that withstands logic. The verdict on the conspiracy charge can only be understood when you remember that the prosecution of the Uhuru Three was never about the law, and it was never about evidence. This was a political trial. So although we beat them on the foreign agents charge, the government still intends to use the conviction on the conspiracy charge to try to put Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru Three in federal prison. The charge carries a maximum 5-year prison sentence. Our sentencing hearing is set for November 25th. They are trying to put the leader of the African Revolution behind bars, but we can stop them. The people can stop them. Our demand is not 1 day in prison. Hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela, free the Uhuru Three. So I want to talk for a few minutes about conspiracy. Conspiracy law is a political weapon of the US government and the colonial capitalist ruling class. As the chairman says, it is not only an attack on free speech, it is an attack on free thought. Right. It is a thought crime. There's a book called The Great Conspiracy Trial that talks about the fact that the conspiracy law came out of the legal system of the British Empire that was created to protect the king from alleged plots against his rule. Prosecutors in the United States retained this conspiracy law from the British and used it to exert power to defend the new colonial ruling class against any challenges to their authority. The author of that book states that conspiracy indictments are commonly brought in political trials in which the crimes charged are often vague and usually less threatening to the authority of the government than the existence of the alleged conspiracy that is said to have planned them. In such cases as these, the substantive crime charged against the defendants is often a pretext for the prosecution of what is deemed a hostile political group to which the defendants belong. African internationalism enables us to understand that under US colonial capitalist rule, there is no group considered more hostile to the status quo than African and colonized peoples when they come together to think and talk about being free. This is why conspiracy laws and other political thought crimes are always weaponized by the US state against African and colonized peoples organizing for their liberation. The Panther 21 were charged with conspiracy to kill cops, blow up police stations, and even the botanical garden in New York. None of that ever happened, but they were charged with conspiring to do it. In the trial of the Chicago 7, or Chicago 8 as it was actually, Black Panther co-founder Bobby Seale was charged with conspiring with 7 other people to incite a riot, that he wasn't even present for the so-called riot and had never even met the other 7 people. The chairman himself has been repeatedly charged with political thought crimes of this nature, including having once been charged with attempting to incite a riot in a situation where no one even picked up a rock. But the government said he thought about it. In the case of the Uhuru 3, this particular iteration of conspiracy law, 18 USC 371, used against the chairman and the Uhuru 3, requires first and foremost that the government prove that there was an agreement between 2 or more persons to commit an unlawful act. So what was the unlawful act the government said the Uhuru 3 had agreed to commit? Well, they claimed it was working as Russian agents without notifying the Attorney General's office. But as shown by the jury's not guilty verdict on the foreign agents charge, the government had zero evidence that such an unlawful act ever took place. So what did they present as evidence of an agreement to commit an unlawful act? Those who were at the trial may recall they presented minutes from a meeting that the chairman held in September of 2015, a day after he got back from Moscow, Russia. I have a copy of those minutes because I typed those minutes, or as the prosecutors screamed during their closing arguments, I, quote, documented the conspiracy. So what is actually contained in this document that is supposed to be evidence of a conspiratorial agreement to commit an unlawful act? What is contained are a series of clearly stated goals for the African People's Socialist Party, including in its relationship with Russia, laid out by Chairman Amalia Shatella. I will note, not one of those goals included acting as foreign agents of Russia without notifying the Attorney General's office. Instead, those goals included speaking for Africa and African people everywhere, creating a diplomatic section of the party to build international solidarity with other peoples and movements around the world, creating the basis for a new communist international under the leadership of the African working class and colonized workers of the world, contributing to the diplomatic encirclement of US imperialism, and recruiting thousands of African people into the Uhuru movement. Again, these are the goals in the document that the government presented as evidence of a conspiracy by the Uhuru 3 to commit crimes against the United States. It was not an agreement to commit an unlawful act. It was an agreement to fight for Black freedom. So unless the government is saying that fighting for Black people to be free is an unlawful act, then the conviction on the conspiracy charge must be overturned. Chairman O'Malley has stated that under colonialism, freedom for Black people is illegal. So now the court must either throw out this bogus conspiracy conviction or agree that freedom for Black people is illegal. Thinking about freedom for Black people is illegal. The conviction of the chairman and the Uhuru 3 on the charge of conspiracy against the government is a frontal assault on the First Amendment to the US Constitution that the government claims to uphold and protect. It's an illegitimate charge that violates the US government's own constitutional principles to further a political attack on African people's right to organize, speak, and think freely. What they have characterized as a criminal conspiracy is in reality a 50-year-long struggle for decolonization, for African people to build dual power in their own hands, self-government in their own hands, but they will not succeed. We know that Chairman Omali Shatella, the Uhuru 3, freedom of speech and freedom of thought will win. How do we know? Because the trial of the Uhuru 3 just showed that when we fight back, we win. Our victory in the courts in crushing the very premise of their bogus foreign agents prosecution should instill every one of us with the greatest confidence and the will to keep fighting and keep winning. So finally, I'm excited to announce that, as has been mentioned actually, the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition is launching a campaign to demand that the US Congress repeal these repressive, anti-democratic foreign agents laws used historically to target those who speak out against US imperialism and colonialism. Anyone who's interested in joining this campaign can email us at info@handsoffahuru.org. So I will leave you with the following words which I quote directly from the closing arguments delivered by Chairman Omali Yeshitela's attorney, Addie Griffin, on our last day in court. In her closing statement, she said, quote, "A revolutionary, an activist, a man of conviction, a man who stands for what he believes in and fights for the liberation of all Black people in the United States and across the globe, and a man who has done so his entire life. Omali Yeshitela is not for sale." And as attorney Mutaki Akbar said in his closing argument, Uhuru means freedom. Free the Uhuru 3, not 1 day in prison, not 1 minute, not 1 second. Hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yes. Hands off Chairman Amalia Yeshitela, or the sky's the limit. Uhuru. Thank you so much, Comrade Chair Jesse. Really, remarkable work, as Chairwoman Penny has said, even just on your work on the legal front, and really, helping to politicize, under the chairman's leadership, every aspect of this bogus case, one that we will win. So, Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny, I know we have a lot of great speakers coming up. So. Yes. Yeah, so I just wanted to let everybody know before we move on, just a reminder, and I want to actually thank everybody who have already gone to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, who are helping us reach our goal of $2,000 on today towards the legal defense. And we're calling on people, if you are not already, to consider becoming a monthly sustainer, which means that every month, you're making a contribution towards this fight back. I myself am a sustainer, and I want to see this thing through to the end. So every amount, $1, $100, all of this goes towards a really great fight, and we want to appreciate everybody for doing the best that you can. As we know, times are hard, but we are winning. So before we move, I do want to just introduce our next speaker, which really is why we called everybody to come on today. We have a deadline coming up very soon to make 1,500 letters to the Uhuru 3, to send to the judge on behalf of our comrades. And we're going to hear more just right now about why we're calling on you to write these letters, how you can do it, all the details that you will know. So I'm going to bring up Comrade Director Aisha Fields. Comrade Aisha is the chair of the letter writing campaign. Her and the other comrades have worked really hard to get this information up on our website and out to you in a concise way. So I'm going to turn it over to the comrade who's going to lead us through the character letter writing campaign. So, and we'll be showing some slides, and get your pens and pencils ready if you have any questions. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Just really honored to be a part of this incredible program. I want to salute the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I want to salute Chairwoman Penny Hess and Chair Jesse Neville, SG Mwezi, and all of the comrades and friends and supporters of the Uhuru 3 who have been a major part of this fight back, and an incredible, just stances that everybody has been taking in support of the Uhuru 3. And as has been mentioned, right now we're engaged in a very important campaign to make sure that we can get hundreds. We have a goal of a minimum of 500 per comrade, 500 for the chairman, 500 for Penny, 500 for Jesse, a minimum 500 letters each that would go eventually to the judge through their attorney. So we're confident that not only can we, with the support of all of you here, meet our goal of 500 letters, but that we can exceed that goal. It's really important because the letters are a critical piece of helping the court understand the positive impact of the work of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and comrades Penny and Jesse. And also, it's a part of a political strategy to help the judge and the court understand that that there are people all over the world who have their eyes on this case, that there are people all over the world who believe that the chairman, that Penny and that Jesse should not spend a day in jail, that they should have the most lenient sentence possible so that they can, continue to do the really important and powerful community work that they've been involved in for many decades. So what I want to go through now are some of the guidelines that have been prepared by Attorney Leonard Goodman and that can be really helpful for you when you're preparing your letters to the court on behalf of the Uhuru 3. We want to say again that an individual letter should be written for each person, and it should be sent to their attorneys, and we'll again explain exactly how to make that happen. So in going through the guidelines, first thing I want to say is that you want to start your letter by telling the judge who you are and describe your relationship to the chairman, to Penny, or to Jesse. You can refer to them by their first name, their last name, or any other name that is used by you. We want to include details in this letter about how you know them, for how long you've known them, and how often you speak with them or how often you see them. Also in the letters, we want to make sure, and this is really important, we do not want to say anything about your opinion about their guilt or innocence. Okay, this campaign it is again a part of a political strategy, but our goal is not to make these political in nature in terms of the content of the letter. So we're not to discuss our opinion about their guilt or innocence. This is about expressing what we know about them in terms of their character, in terms of who they are as people. So we don't want to say anything about what we think about their guilt or innocence. We want to explain why we believe this is a good person, why he or she should be allowed to have leniency in their sentencing so that they can continue to freely do their work in the community. And we want to say things about what makes them a good friend or a good relative or a good neighbor or someone who you've worked with, okay? We want to give personal stories. You know, if we know the chairman, or if we know Penny, or if we know Jesse on a outside of just knowing them for their work, then we want to maybe highlight a story or say something about an example of where their character has been on full display. Those are really helpful, and we want to again share specific examples of their good qualities. We want to include examples of the community work that they're involved in and how important and significant the work that they do in the community is. We want to say something about other things that we think the judge might want to know about this person that could help to sway him to have, leniency in the sentencing. This is very important. The letters should be written in our own voice. Okay, it should be your own work. You don't have to follow these guidelines exactly. And while we do offer some sample letters for each of the Uhuru 3, we don't want you to simply rewrite what has already been written. We don't want to have like a situation where we're doing like form letters that people just sign. No matter how, how much you know of them, or how much you've worked with them, or how little you may have, and you just are aware of the significance of their work and the significance of their campaign, speak to that in your own words. That's going to be very important. The next thing is that do not mail your letters directly to the court. And I'm going to say that several times. We have a process that's in place because the letters need to go to the lawyers first and the committee, and then the lawyers will screen those letters to make sure that they're appropriate to go to the judge, and then they will make sure that the judge gets the lawyers. So when addressing your letters, you're going to address them to the judge. We have all of his information on the website. I'm going to show you that in a moment, and it's also here in these slides. So we're going to address to the judge. We're going to show you how to begin your letter to the judge, and then again, don't mail your letters or email your letters to the judge. What we have set up is a process through our website. If you go to Hands Off, and we'll go to this in a moment, but if you go to handsoffuhuru.org/letters, you'll see that we have a process set up where you can not only see the sample letters, but then you can click on a link that will allow you to write the letter right on the website. It has already been addressed to the judge. It already has his information on there, and it's already going to go immediately once you submit your letter to the appropriate attorney and to the committee. So we have a very simple, straightforward process that that you can follow on our website that will allow you to do that. So those letters are, again, not going directly to the court. They're going to the lawyers. We have the chairman's lawyer's email address, Penny and Jesse's letter email address for reference. But again, if you use the system that we've set up on the website, it'll go, once you push submit and do your letter, it'll go straight to the appropriate attorney. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is, if we could go to the handsoffuhuru.org/letters. This is where you can get all of the information that I've laid out here. Right, perfect. You can get all the information that I've laid out here on the website. So you'll see at the top, we have our Right for Justice campaign. The letters are due by October 15th. Okay, that is our deadline. So we have just a couple of weeks to make all of these letters happen. So deadline is October 15th. You have a little bit of an overview at the top of the website, but if you look on the far right, it has resources for letter writing. The guidelines that I went over, you have a link to those guidelines right there. It says guidelines and instructions. You can click there and see those guidelines again. Underneath that, there's another link that says sample letters. You can click there. You can see a sample letter for both the chairman, for all three comrades, the chairman, Penny, and Jesse. There's also an example of a letter if you're not familiar with them personally, but you're aware of their work or you're aware of their case. So there are examples that you can use to write your own letter there. So that's very important. If we can go back to that page. Okay, so if you go down a little bit more, you'll see use these online forms to submit your letters. Okay, so you'll see a link for the chairman, for Amalia Shatella. You'll see a link for Penny Hess. You'll see a link for Jesse Neville. Once you click on the link, let's say you're going to write a letter for the chairman, you click on the link, you're going to see that you can plug in your personal information here. Okay, and then once you've done that, you can then move on. It will set up a kind of like a template for you already, where the letter is addressed to the judge's address is there. You can then just go ahead and just type your letter. So once you type your letter, you'll be able to push submit. Once you push submit, then that letter will go directly to the appropriate attorney, and it'll also go to the letter writing committee. So we got a really straightforward process there. So you would do the same thing for chairman. You go to a different link for Penny, and you go to a different link for Jesse, because again, each of the comrades need to have letters written for them that will go to their attorney. Okay. One more thing, a couple more things before I wrap up. If you go down to a little bit further down, you'll see a link that says, you'll see a header that says, if you have a handwritten letter. Okay. So for those who will either be doing outreach, getting letters, because that's something that we'll be calling on people to do too. Like, you could be at your outreach tables, you can be in a meeting, or some kind of an event, and get letters as a part of this campaign. So if you happen to have handwritten letters that people write, we have instructions for how you can submit the handwritten letters. Now, here's where you would send those letters directly to the respective attorneys, and we're asking them to CC, if folks do that, to CC our committee at letters@handsoffufuru.org. So we have instructions here. If you have a handwritten letter, again, don't mail your letter directly to the court. Take a clear photograph of that letter and email it to the attorneys. The addresses are below. CC letters@handsoffufuru.org. So we can do it that way as well. So last thing I want to show you, if we could go to if we can go to the Right for Justice Zoom link there. I'm not sure if you've got that website. Yeah, you do. We're having a international letter writing campaign on October the 5th, next Saturday. And what we're calling on people to do is to organize events or organize parties in your home or in your meeting space or at your community center where people can come together and participate in writing letters for this campaign. We're going to have a training that's going to start at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on October the 5th. It'll be about an hour and a half. We'll go through the training. We'll then call on people right there to write their letters and to submit the letters. So we're calling on people to really help to support this campaign by participating in organizing letter writing groups, letter writing parties on October the 5th. Again, you can register for this training and for this campaign piece by going to handsoffuhuru.org and going to events. When you go to events, you can see the International Letter Writing Campaign, and you can register on Zoom and participate in that training. So I just really want to thank everybody so far. We've been getting letters coming in. Really want to thank everybody who has sent letters in already. We want to call on you to ask, bring everybody into this campaign. Bring your mom, your dad, your sisters, your children, your comrades, the people at your church, the people at your mosque, people who you talk to casually about this campaign. Everybody can play a role in helping to ensure that Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Chairwoman Penny Hess, Chair Jesse Neville have the most lenient sentence possible that will allow them to stay out of prison and to continue to do the really important work that they've been involved in. And we know that it is only the power of the people that can make this happen. The court, the judge has to be able to see support coming from all over the world of people saying that we will not be satisfied with anything less than the most lenient sentence possible for the Uhuru 3. That's how we're going to win. So I just want to salute and thank everybody in advance for what you're going to do to help us not only meet but exceed our goal of a minimum of 500 letters per comrade. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Comrade Director Aisha, and just really want to salute the letter writing campaign committee and, for that overview. And I hope that, helped to answer. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of, great feedback in the chat, many of the questions that people may have. And again, this is meant to, provide as much clarity as possible. So just bookmark or just remember handsoffuhuru.org/letters with an S. This is where you can continually get the information. You have the form letters and all the things that you can take out to, to your base. And as well as a call to register for next Saturday, again, October 5th, is the International Day of Action to write letters for the Uhuru 3. And you can get that information in the chat from our chat moderators or by going to handsoffuhuru.org/write-for-justice. And that's for that one-day letter writing party that we're calling on everybody to do. So thank you so much. I see Comrade Penny is back up. We're going to kick it off and introduce some of our speakers. So I'll turn it over to you, Comrade.
Uhuru. Just really want to join in saluting Dr. Aisha Fields for that powerful instruction on how to write the letters. And I know we're going to get a lot of really important letters. It's very, very important to this case. I saw somebody, Cam Howard in the chat mentioning how important the character letters are. So really excited for this campaign and appreciate it. I also want to go into our next segment to introduce the comrade Don Lawson from the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. And I do want to say that one of the things that has always been powerfully moving to me about being under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party is that the party stands for the freedom and liberation of African people and all oppressed and colonized peoples. And that never, nothing comes to the party at the expense of anybody else. This is about true freedom of speech and freedom and national liberation to all oppressed and colonized peoples. And I just wanted to, before I go introduce Dawn, I just wanted to show a photograph that I think Comrade Lisa is going to put up there of this is a demonstration around Leonard Peltier in San Francisco in the 1980s. And speaking there is Biko Lumumba, who is the father of Comrade Jainaba, who spoke earlier, and who unfortunately left us way too soon. And also with him there to his left is Sid Welch of the American Indian Movement, who also is no longer with us. But I just want to say that support, that solidarity with the freedom and the right of the freedom of Indigenous people and the freedom of Leonard Peltier goes back from the very earliest days of the African People's Socialist Party. So with that, I would like to bring up our comrade Dawn Lawson, who will be speaking from the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. Uhuru Dawn.
Uhuru, Chair Penny. I have some words for Leonard. Somebody sent me a statement that he wrote a while back that is still appropriate. I send my love and blood as a prisoner of war within the belly of the beast to those who continue to struggle. And that means all of us. Ward Churchill says that the freedom of Leonard Peltier is a test of whether the police or the people are ascendant in this nation. And we see that with you, with the conspiracy charges are nothing but nonsense. They can confuse a jury into gaining a conviction. Federal penitentiaries are holding pens for civil rights activists. We are not allowed to speak out and say, you're killing people and you need to stop. Look at our presidential election. We've got a war criminal on one side, and the other platform seems to consist of nothing but maniacal laughter. We need to do something to change this, and I don't know what it is. Leonard has been in lockdown for 13 days. He has not been allowed out of his cell. For his birthday, he was in a 10-day lockdown. He was allowed out twice and allowed to make 3 phone calls. So this has been over a month of solitary confinement. They are violating constitutional law. They are violating international law, and they're getting away with it. I don't know what it's going to take to change that. It's going to take what you're doing. It's going to take what we're doing. Leonard is asking for solidarity with everyone, white, black, brown, yellow, red. It does not matter. We all bleed red, period. And we cannot allow this man to die in prison. We cannot allow it. I will not allow it. Thank you for giving us this platform. Thank you for standing with Leonard. And thank you for being a voice. A voice. We need people to tell the truth out there. Everybody is despondent and hopeless. They know there is something deeply wrong in this country, but no one knows what to do about it. They take pictures of their lunch and they post it on Twitter. That's the answer. People need to start telling the truth loudly and often. So I know that I have probably already gone over, so I will pass it on to the next person. But thank you, and we've got new people coming on board. We are prepared to make noise for Leonard and for all politically oppressed people, which is turning out to be just about everyone in this nation. Someone coming onto our board was on a panel and he said the United States is in open rebellion against international law. And this government is. They don't care about their own laws. They don't care that people watch them breaking their own laws. The parole commission was supposed to be abolished 40 years ago. They pull in $15 million for a 54-member panel that makes a living by keeping a few old law prisoners incarcerated long past their lawful release dates. That's a problem. And I really will shut up now. Thank you so much, Comrade Penny.
Thank you so much, Comrade Dawn and all of the comrades, Jennifer and Paulette and others from the powerful Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. Uhuru.
Uhuru. I will put our web address in the chat, www.freeleonardpeltiernow.org. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for doing that, and Uhuru, and I'm going to turn it back over to.
And we are right there with you. I know Paulette was with you every day.
Yes, yes, it was powerful to see Paulette.
I wish I could have been there.
All right, I think we're going to are we bringing up Cam Howard right now, Chairman Wasey?
Yeah, I think, yeah, let's go ahead and get Brother Cam in, and then we'll continue on with the program. And again, I wanted to join in saying thank you, Don. And yes, not one more year, free Leonard Peltier, and just really want to salute you in that committee so much, comrade. And don't shut up yet. So just, you kept saying that, so not yet. Uhuru, Brother Cam, great to have you on with Reparations United. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Sister Mwezi, and thank you for your leadership in the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. Uhuru Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Uhuru Chairwoman Penny Hess, Uhuru Chair Jesse Neville, and all the comrades who are joining us. I want to join in solidarity statements and celebrating the tremendous victory that occurred in St. Petersburg courtroom on September 3rd. Yes, it was a tremendous victory. When the weight of the United States of America's federal criminal justice systems comes down on you, its goal is to kill you. Its goal is to crush you, to silence you, to turn public sentiment away from you, to make you irrelevant, even in the eyes of your own people, to make others turn their backs on you, to make you a public enemy, to make others target you, to wipe you out of history, to label you criminal, and yes, to jail you. And I'm gonna talk about that last point in a second. However, in the other ways that I mentioned, what the government tried to do, they failed. Although they did bring its weight down on the Uhuru movement and on the Uhuru 3 to the tune of millions of dollars, thousands of man hours, 29 federal agents, a military assault in the pre-dawn raid, they did not crush or kill the chairman, Penny or Jesse, or the Uhuru movement. We are still here, they are still here, and we are stronger. They did not silence us. We are speaking more boldly and with more assurances of our analysis. They did not turn public sentiment away from us. Voices from throughout the political thought see clearly that this was an attack on our freedom of speech, our freedom of agency, our freedom of dissent, and they stood with us. They did not make us irrelevant or make the Uhuru 3 irrelevant to our people, the working class of America and the world, yet see the Uhuru movement as a powerful symbol of struggle against colonialism and genocide and the struggle for reparations. They did not make others turn their backs on us, except for their instruments of capital and domination, like the bank, Regions Bank, and some of the major news outlets. But others on the Black left stood strong with us and brought some that were silent out to a collective stand against this fraudulent trial. They did not attempt, they did not win in their attempt to make the Uhuru 3 public enemy #1 in this info war with Russia. The jury, the representatives of the public saw through that and said, no, the Uhuru 3 are not agents of the Russian government. They are defenders of the rights of which this government says that all members of the public is supposed to enjoy. So the jury say they're not public enemies. They were not public enemies, but friends of the public, representatives of the public rights, public right defenders. They were not successful in having others to target the Uhuru movement. They could not get one witness, even at the tune of a $10 million reward, to come out and point a false finger at the Uhuru 3. They did not and cannot wipe us out of history to make us a footnote, but we showcase, the Uhuru 3 showcased in this trial our history, that we are the showcase our history of the past, and that we are making history today with this defeat of this giant. I want all of us to think on this, comrades, and what all this means. The only way we can characterize what the jury verdict is, what the jury verdict produced, is that this was a tremendous victory for the Black liberation struggle in America and in the world. We owe the Uhuru 3 eternal gratitude for standing for us all in their courtroom. We all won because of their bravery. Now we must pay them back for their revolutionary service. The last thing the government wanted to do with this attack on Black liberation was to jail our comrades for 15 years. We know they cannot do that now. However, there's still a specter of a possible 5-year sentence. This is the final stage of the government's nefarious and criminal plans against Black liberation. To make our victory complete and to definitively defeat the US government, we must do all that we can to ensure that neither the chairman, Penny Hess, or Jesse spends a single day in jail. Not one day for the Uhuru 3. Not one day for the Uhuru 3. Not one day for the Uhuru 3. This is how we get back to those who've given us so much. Uhuru, comrades, and join this struggle to make sure that our freedom fighters do not spend a single day in jail. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Wow, that's a powerful statement, Comrade Cam. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope we could, capture that again and, deliver that statement, that call to the people. And like you said, when they won, we won. And that's a victory for all of us. So really want to salute you, Comrade. And I know that you are also playing a role in, helping with the letters and just your dynamic work as a member of the Black is Back Coalition. So we'll be seeing more of you and just appreciate you for staying on with us, Comrade Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. All right, comrades. I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker. These, comrades, as we know, the relationship, the African liberation, struggle and the resistance is, very closely linked and tied to the struggle of Indigenous people. And we, would not be able to, we cannot have these types of discussions without acknowledging, this stolen land and saluting the comrades from Union del Barrio who were there on the ground in Tampa, Florida, coming in, droves, like a relay race, coming to support the Uhuru 3. And I really want to salute and appreciate Comrade Francisco Romero, who is on with us, who is going to be delivering a statement from Union del Barrio. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Comrade. Welcome, Uhuru.
Uhuru, comrades. Saludos revolucionarios. Un abrazo. First, want to state that it's an honor to be part of the panel here today. And also to mention that, we had forces on the ground every single day of the trial, monitoring, being present, supporting our comrades. We have a fraternal relationship that goes back decades. Before I kind of present more of the collective Unión del Barrio, statement, I did want to say that the power, the breath of fresh air, or the revolutionary air that I was able to breathe, walking into these institutions that the settler colonial state has built in order to attempt to intimidate our people. You walk into these huge buildings, and they're intentionally built this way to try to psychologically put a statement in front of you to be afraid of this structure. But every single day, I have the honor to watch Comrade Omali Yeshitela and all the other comrades walk into that space with such a powerful force that it's hard to capture in words. So whatever you can do to be present at the sentencing bogus, sentencing, hearing, please attempt to do so. If there was ever a time where you had some money saved up and can make it out to somewhere, this is it. Be there. I had the honor of being there for the first full week, from the kickoff through every single day of the trial, leading up to that Friday weekend, and it was just something that is you cannot describe in words. So I won't even try to do so today. So just, we want to say that we had some comradely relief when we were monitoring and seeing the verdict, because of the power of standing up in the face of this repression from the like Comrade just mentioned earlier, from the weight of the state and the federal government. And you were able to stand really strongly so in the face of this, and inspire and educate and inform other movements such as ourselves. I want to say now a few words. I'll keep my remarks brief. I know that we have an amazing set of solidarity statements, but what we do want to say is that we unite with you, because we know clearly as Unión del Barrio that the same structures that violently repressed the movement that we're building now are the same ones that violently repressed through either overt or covert operations, such as the counterintelligence program, right? COINTELPRO. We know that these attacks are part of this colonial assault on our organizations that dare to engage in struggles of self-determination against settler colonialism. So the attacks on Chairman O'Malley, the party, the Solidarity Committee is like they're trying to make an example out of our comrades. So this is why we stand in complete solidarity with the compas. We want to say that we understand clearly that what unites our organizations is the clarity that it is U.S. settler colonial state that was built on the backs of African people and the genocide of indigenous people, including Mexicanos. As Mexicanos, we are an indigenous people to this continent. Every day we experience a subordinate, colonial repression, and our people are exploited for our labor, are constantly conditioned to try to force us to live in fear and deplorable, unacceptable conditions, social political ones. This is why we stand with the Uhuru 3 and say, when settler colonialism attacks one of us, it attacks us all. Touch one, touch all, we say. These U.S. government and FBI attacks on the Uhuru movement, on the African People's Socialist Party, is an attempt to try to silence the liberation of African people. The jury's partial verdict, right? As we heard earlier, it's kind of like a mess there that they've created for themselves. This problem, right? That is in front of them is nothing but, for us, bogus charges, ridiculous allegations, and trying to take the agency away from African people, such as they try to do to our people, is nothing but slander and reactionary, right? And these colonial powers are on an unrelenting campaign to try to destroy the African Revolution, to try to destroy the indigenous people's movements to free ourselves, self-determination and liberation. They've done it in the past, and naming just a few, we know that they attacked Du Bois, Garvey, Comrade Malcolm X, King, Hampton, Newton, all these comrades that have that represented organization. And this is why the party is such an important inspiration to us. And we stand with you, comrades, hand in hand. We'll always be there in the defense, but also in the offense, in our clarity to what the future will bring for our peoples together. So Unión del Barrio, again, is honored to stand with you during this historic moment in history of our struggle. Saludos, comrades. De parte de Unión del Barrio, I'll pass it back to our comrade Mwezi. Mwezi, just much appreciation to you all that are coordinating this campaign. You know, we are very much appreciative of all that hard work that is going on. So please donate, please support, please write those letters, please try to show up, be there on November 25th. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Penny. I just want to say thank you.
Uhuru, just really wanted to thank Francisco Chavo from Unión de Barrio, and just, yes, it was really powerful to have you and other comrades from Unión de Barrio there during the trial, and for many years, as you've said, the unity with the African People's Socialist Party is very inspiring.
Yes, Uhuru, and just wanted to, join you and, as we salute this organization, as we know, the most powerful weapon that we have as the people is organization, and that's what we brought, to this campaign. That's what we brought on the ground in Tampa, Florida, and that's what we're going to continue to do until victory. So I just want to appreciate you, comrades, so much, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Uhuru. So, all right, well, we are moving on to some more really great statements from our supporters. Salute to everybody who is on with us still and who is continuing to donate by going to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. You heard Comrade Francisco say, help build this legal fund, help us reach our goal of $2,000 on today. And I just want to see, I know Comrade Joe Iosbaker, I know you had to step away, but you might be back. If you're back, let me know. Okay, I see you on. Okay, great. Wonderful. So we're going to move on with some brief statements from some more forces who were on the ground there in St. Pete. I'm going to, it's my pleasure to bring up Comrade Joe Iosbaker with Freedom Road Socialist Organization, who was there for the really dynamic August 31st rally on the ground in St. Pete, a very hot day, and we stayed out there and we, brought the heat as well. So thank you, Joe, for joining us. And I'm going to turn it to you, Comrade Uhuru.
Thank you, Comrade Mwezi, Uhuru, everyone. And on behalf of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization and the Committee to Stop FBI Repression, I bring greetings of solidarity to Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the African People's Socialist Party, and the Uhuru movement, Uhuru. So the Uhuru 3 has scored an important and initial victory in court 2 weeks ago. You achieved it because you stood up to the witch hunt. You declared that you committed no crime. You announced that you have the right to speak out against U.S. imperialist war, to denounce genocide on Africans, and to take international trips and engage in protests for peace. You stood on the basis of First Amendment rights, which the prosecution attempted to block. So now you have to continue your fight for justice to defeat this absurd conviction of acting as agents of Russia for doing the work that you have been doing for decades. So yes, I was there in St. Pete's for the rally before the trial began. I was unable to stay for the trial, but a number of comrades from Freedom Road there in Florida were in the courtroom every day. And I also, when I didn't get to deliver this message when I was there, but Comrade Frank Chapman from the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression expressed that he wished he could have been in the courtroom that week as well. So, comrades Yeshitela, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, you know a little bit of the history that myself. I was part of the Anti-War 23, along with Hatem Aboudeya, the executive director of the U.S. Palestinian Community Network, Mick Kelly, political secretary of Freedom Road, Jess Sundin, a leader in the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. We were facing 15-year sentences for allegations of providing material support to foreign terrorist organizations in Palestine and in Colombia when our homes were raided 14 years ago this week. When they couldn't get a grand jury to indict us, they roped in Carlos Montes, a founder of the Brown Berets, to that investigation, throwing in bogus gun charges against him. Carlos defeated those charges and is still organizing for Chicano liberation and for socialism. Then, excuse me, then they threw everything they had at Rasmia Oda, an icon of the Palestinian movement. Again, we defeated them in court, only to have Rasmia deported when the straight up white supremacist Trump ended up in the White House. But today, the Palestinian people are poised to finally bring an end to the settler colonial occupation they have suffered under for 75 years. As I said at the rally in St. Pete's 3 weeks ago, in our resistance movement, we believe that when we fight, we win. So I just want to say, I want to keep my remarks brief. I just want to say justice for the Uhuru Three, overturn the conviction, and solidarity is not a crime. Uhuru.
Uhuru. That's great. Yeah, that's a great statement. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, solidarity is not a crime, and indeed, it is imperative, in this period. So thank you so much, Comrade Joe. I.S. Baker of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization and the Committee to Stop FBI Repression. I will turn it over to you, Comrade Penny Hess. Uhuru.
Uhuru, yes, thank you, Joe, for just being there and just a really powerful comrade. And it is my honor to bring up Comrade Afia Ngwanza of the Malcolm X Center for Self-Determination and for her radio station in South Carolina. It's an honor to have you here. She's a former member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and just a very, very dynamic member and leader of the Uhuru movement. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to be a part of this historic moment. Not only is it historic in the moment, but it is historic in the continuum of the struggle for African liberation. It is with great pride that I join my SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, veteran, colleague, comrade, and the Jesse and Penny in upholding the standard that SNCC held forth for the other civil rights organizations, forcing them to transition into at least talking about being human rights organization, as Malcolm X challenged us to do. Even more, to stand with the chairman, Chairman Omali Yesitela, in his courageous stand, carrying forward even when SNCC establishment was not able, was not willing to lift up the demand and the challenge of self-determination in the name of Black power, a phrase that was first coined by Richard Wright and later raised and revived by Adam Clayton Powell and launched by the SNCC Atlanta project of Vine City. that the chairman and the Uhuru movement were able to take the position papers of the Atlanta project of Vine City and to make them flesh, and to make them flesh against all odds. And in the midst of battle, to materialize them, as he says he is a materialist. He has in fact proven himself to be true. And even more to the point, to be able to create a movement where white people embrace their humanity and their humility, and to work diligently under the leadership of the Black working class. That in and of itself was frightening to many and continues to be, but has proven the way forward for African liberation, both here and abroad. His ability to not only create an institution self-sustaining and exemplary of the ethics that are necessary for revolution, but also to have it translated into the legal arena in the ways of the old days with Kunstler, Kanoy, Howard Moore, and other revolutionary lawyers who stood against the gale and forced the US courts and the legal system to, if not adhere to, as Martin Luther King said, what they put on paper, to at least have to defend it, their failure to comply with their own standards. It is an honor to stand with all of you today and in the future, to have been present throughout the trial was most affirming and reviving of my own spirit, having served myself for more than 50 years, and at times wondering, would we in our lifetime see that standard revived? I want to urge people to write those letters, to get others to write letters. Letters work, both as it relates to the legal system, but perhaps even more importantly, in our own minds, affirming our role in the struggle and our contributions that are made by ourselves and those around us on an everyday basis. The funding is necessary. I grew up in an apostolic faith church where the people were able to build an international movement with chicken dinners and sweet potato pies, and took great pride in doing that. How they resisted the US government's creation of a commemorative coin program with coins of Booker T. Washington and the other one, with the peanuts, who resisted that campaign by the US government to brainwash us into believing that the only way forward is capitalism and pseudo democracy as political performance by the US government. The Uhuru 3 have again challenged that mythology, challenged that myth that the United States is the gold standard for human rights. In writing the letters and making our contributions, we reaffirm that understanding in our own bodies. The body keeps the count, and we make it flesh. We challenge all to stand with the Uhuru 3 and to move forward, because in fact, when we fight, we do win. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Comrade Sister Afia. And I just want to say that it really was, a profound honor to, just be on the ground with you. It always is, but I think just during this period, your leadership and yours and the chairman and Comrade Mukasa, and just the history that we are going to see through during this period. So it's just really powerful. I want to salute you, Comrade Uhuru.
It's our honor, our privilege. Thank you.
Uhuru. Go ahead, Penny.
Okay, Uhuru, thank you so much, Afia and Gwanza. Very much an honor to have you on. And as always, just a really important member of the Black is Back Coalition and the Uhuru movement in so many ways is Comrade Lisa Davis. Of course, it wouldn't be an event without you being here, and we appreciate you so much, Uhuru. Welcome.
Uhuru, thank you so much for the introduction. As many of you know, my name is Lisa Davis, and I also happen to be the vice chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And I just have to say that I have been with this movement, actively involved with it for about 16 years, and it has been one of the most powerful, life-reaffirming movements that I could be a part of. And to work under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the people of the Uhuru movement is just awe-inspiring, to say the least. I can wholeheartedly say that the chairman is uncompromising, somebody who has stayed the course and that they could not break us. And to have this Uhuru movement during these extremely troubling times in which we just see war and genocide, and open genocide, become more and more active and even more normalized in the minds of some people in the public. Just having the Uhuru movement, like I said, has been a tremendous roadmap to help me through these extremely difficult times. And it is not just about personalities. It is not just that the chairman or people such as Penny Hess and Jesse Neville are such dynamic personalities. It's about far more than that. It is about establishing a political ideology that can guide us, that can help navigate us through these horrible storms, that is so affirming. A political ideology with boots on the ground. And that is why I continue to stay with the Uhuru movement, is why I continue to support Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and why I continue to back him. I was not able to get to the trial at the beginning as I had initially wanted to do, but I can wholeheartedly say that just reading about the trial, even from the so-called mainstream or corporate press, which we know is anti-liberation, anti-Black liberation struggle, it was just so powerful reading about that, because every time they had to report the bogus, ridiculous allegations that the government was making against the Uhuru movement, such as, oh, the Russians told them about reparations and told them to charge the US with genocide. People could just see how ridiculous that was, but it was just a strong testament to the work that the Uhuru movement has been doing, and the Uhuru 3. The Black is Back Coalition, I'm so proud of the Black is Back Coalition. I can honestly say that we did not back off for not 1 second. We only grew stronger, and that we stand with you. We support you. We are so proud of the work of the Black is Back Coalition. And I do know that the work of the Black is Back Coalition was also put on trial when they talked about interfering with the elections. And even when they talk about some of the things that were done. We put forth the 19-point platform, which included reparations and a number of other demands, and we adamantly said, do not support these candidates if they do not endorse or support our platform. And both Jesse Neville and Sister Keeley, some of the first candidates that we ever endorsed, ran on a platform of reparations for the Black community. And this was, I think, in 2017, during one of the first years of the electoral campaign school, which I'm so proud that the Black is Back Coalition launched. Everybody has said so much already. I'm so proud of all the comrades I've met. I'm so proud of how this our movement is widening and broadening. We stand with you, we salute you, but also with all of the other struggles that so many people here represent, we stand with you as well. And it's just also gives me such great pride to know that I can go amongst any movement, any liberation movement, anyone calling for justice, and I can do that sincerely because I know that the Uhuru movement has been standing up for these struggles long before this bogus trial was launched, such as, Palestine, such as the Congo, such as what's happening in Cuba and internationally. We have always been standing up for these struggles, and I salute everybody and thank you so much. Uhuru, and write those letters, and we've only just begun. And we ain't afraid, we ain't backing down from nobody.
Uhuru. Uhuru, Lisa, thank you so much. It's always powerful to hear you.
Yes.
And next, we want to bring up two comrades together, two comrades who are each in their own right powerful revolutionary activists, authors, and experts, both in the law, on the US government's counterinsurgency, COINTELPRO, and Indigenous history, Comrade Ward Churchill and Comrade Natsu Saito. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep. Well, the place to begin might have been just a second what everybody else has said, because it's been said and said and said powerfully, eloquently, based on a range of experience. But I'll add my 2 cents to that. I've been active since the late 60s, and I've been aware of Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party for most of that period of time. I became aware of them in the 1970s and began to work with them periodically on an invitation basis. When I was in the Bay Area, I was working on a Geronimo Pratt case at the time. Yeah, I've known Omali for the better part of 50 years. Been aware of his politics, his program, his approach, his organization, Penny Hess as well, for that entire period. And what we have not had in terms of movement is a kind of consistency that can carry us through. And if nothing else you can say about Omali and Penny, and to my knowledge, Jesse, is that they're absolutely consistent. Absolutely consistent. And that is reflected in their trial. We're not even going to mount a defense to this nonsense. You had an FBI agent testify with regard to genocide, the agent primarily responsible for mustering the evidence that this somehow or another was a recent concoction of the Russian intelligence agency to push the idea that U.S. was guilty of genocide with regard to Afro-descended population. Was totally unaware of the 1951 petition put forth by Paul Robeson and others shortly after the Genocide Convention was ratified. Not that she didn't take it into consideration, she just didn't know about it. You had the ignorant accusing and prosecuting the monumentally well-informed, historically grounded, truth-speaking organization that has been perhaps the most consistent of any in the U.S. in pursuing the goals and objectives of Black liberation. And that's the target. has been said before. As to this conspiracy, well, once the criminal actions were disposed of, what were they conspiring to do? To continue to tell the truth, but to sign on as unregistered Russian agents somehow in the process? Absurd. This trial has reduced itself with the single conviction of the charge, which has no substance whatsoever. And I think Jesse laid that out very well. Conspiracy in this case, as in most cases, is an additive measure. You have to be convicted of the major charges against you, the commission of these crimes, in order to be found guilty of conspiring to commit them. But hey, what are they guilty of conspiring to do? Achieve freedom for Black people? Destroy the colonial mode of production, replacing it with something consistent with legal requirements? You could accuse me, and I'll plead guilty, of conspiring to achieve freedom through slightly different methods, but in total concert and solidarity with the people who stood the trial, in solidarity with the Uhuru movement, and I will continue to do so. To refuse to do more than laugh at those who bring bogus charges of this sort against you is the ultimate posture of freedom and defiance. And for that, the sentence should be an award. They should be commended by the court for adhering to the legal stipulations of the U.S. Constitution, of international law, and all the rest. And if they wish to go and prosecute someone for being the unregistered agent of a foreign power, operating hypothetically at least in conflict with U.S. policy promulgation, then how about IPEC or APEC or however you pronounce the Zionist support organization in the United States? How about Alan Dershowitz? How about, well, I could continue to name them, but you know where I'm going. So my respect to the Uhuru Three for standing their ground and not giving an inch. My respect to them for continuing to do so. Yeah, write those letters, but more to the point, let's engage in the real world, in the concrete world, to continue the work that they've been pursuing and achieving and accomplishing so admirably over the decades. As they once put it, back when I was a younger guy, power to the people, all power to the people. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Comrade Ward. And I see Comrade Natsu is ready, so I'll turn it to you. The comrades in St. Louis are just getting back online. They got kicked off the internet, so take it away, Comrade Uhuru.
Okay, thank you. It's really an honor to participate in this program, and I'm really humbled to be here with all of these amazing speakers, most of whom have said everything I was thinking I might say. But I wanted to add my congratulations to Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela on their victory in court. Echo what has been said with respect to the conspiracy charges. You know, as a lawyer, I can understand how one might conspire to rob a bank and fail. But as Jesse has explained so clearly, given that these are speech actions, how can you try but fail to engage in speech that furthered Russian interests? It's is completely incoherent. But I think what is clear in this case is that from the government's perspective, the Uhuru 3 and others who engage in this type of action to support the self-determination of Black people around the world and all other peoples, that they weren't engaged in a conspiracy to become agents of the Russian government, but a conspiracy to liberate Black and Indigenous peoples. And that's what's at the heart of this struggle. It's really vital for us to defend the rights that are guaranteed to everyone by the Constitution and the First Amendment. But what's at issue here is much more than that, right? They're not being prosecuted because their views align with those of the Russian government or any other statist entities. They're being prosecuted because they're fighting for self-determination and reparations for massive historic wrongs. And in that process, exposing the United States for what it is, not a liberal democracy, but a settler colonial state. And the government's actions are falling into a very long and very consistent history of calling un-American that which challenges the status quo. And that is part of a general policy of associating American identity with the presumptive right of Europeans to colonize Africa and the Americas. And we've seen this since the very first Congress limited naturalized citizenship to free white people. We see this in the presumption that underlies the government's consistent claims that have been referenced here, that people of color who challenge white supremacy must be acting at the behest of foreign powers. And these claims expose the reality that, as Cherokee artist Jimmy Durham explained, there's no there there. America, as is put forth to us, right, doesn't exist if one strips away the right to appropriate indigenous lands, to eliminate or enslave peoples indigenous to North America or Africa, or to exploit other peoples of color. And that's why those who are courageous enough to struggle for self-determination are accused of being enemies of the state. And that's why our solidarity with the Uhuru movement is part of a larger struggle to defend not just the US Constitution, but our most fundamental human rights. And our human rights include the right to self-determination, and underlying all human rights is the right to dignity. And what I think is really important about this struggle, and what I want to emphasize to all of us who are not on trial personally, but who are part of this movement to support the defendants here, is to say that it is through these actions that we live out and realize our human rights, right? These are not rights that we sit around and wait for some government to recognize or to grant us. These are rights that come into being through our actions. And we realize the right to self-determination, and we realize human dignity, as Afia just explained, right? By our support, by showing up, by writing those letters, by supporting those who are on trial here in any way that we can. I look forward to seeing all of you in Tampa on November 25th. Thank you.
Uhuru. Wow, really powerful statements by Comrade Ward Churchill and Natsu Saito. I really want to just, unite with, a couple of the statements that were made before we move on to our next speakers. In particular, just wanted to join Comrade Ward and, saluting, this fight back and not giving up 1 inch, and we refuse to. And if anything, we're going to take up more and more of the democratic space. And I really want to appreciate, Natsu, what you just said around, again, like what is incoherent, but what is clear is about how you phrase it around the actions as, the way for us to realize our, human rights and our, dignity, as stated by Comrade Afia. And I just think that's really powerful, because this is exactly why we're being charged, is because we are doing what we say we are, about. And that's what's really threatening to this government. So I see the comrades on the ground in St. Louis are back with us, and we have 2 more very dynamic speakers. One of them maybe, well, I know is on the ground in St. Louis. This is Comrade Jesse Todd. Jesse Todd, also known as the People's Alderman, a really powerful comrade, a longtime member of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and is here with us to give a statement for the Uhuru 3. So I'll turn it to you, Comrade Jesse Todd. Uhuru.
Uhuru, he's actually not with us on the ground.
He's on Zoom though, yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay,
Comrade
yeah.
is on.
Oh, but I don't know, maybe he's not at his computer just yet. So if not, Comrade Alderman Jesse Todd, let us know if you're having a hard time unmuting. Oh, go ahead. Our Zoom.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that, yes, we got kicked off the internet right when Ward Churchill was speaking. They kicked us off. Somebody kicked us off. So yeah, so it's good to have them on, have not to, and Ward on. And I know hopefully Comrade Jesse Todd can come on.
He's here.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yes, we can hear
we
you.
hear you. We hear you. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to give a shout out to the Uhuru 3. They have shown courage and taken a principled stand. The Uhuru 3 have spent most of their adult life fighting for political and economic justice for African people all over the world. The Uhuru 3 are being targeted, slandered, and denied their constitutional rights, first of all, for telling the truth. They're telling the truth about genocide that is happening to African people and all over the world. The Uhuru 3 are telling the truth about the fact that every white person owes every African person reparations. The Uhuru 3, unlike many organizations, are fighting for the total independence and liberation of the African people. For example, the Uhuru 3, under the leadership of Omali Yeshitela, is leading the Black Coalition. The Uhuru 3 is the only Black newspaper that I know of that has a Black working class newspaper with no advertisement. The independent radio station is being attacked. The Uhuru 3 is the first time that I learned about the fact that we're fighting not against something in our head called racism, but we're fighting to end colonialism at home and abroad. The Uhuru 3 is fighting for control of the institutions in Africa and for African people all over the world. The Uhuru 3 led the fight in St. Pete and St. Louis on the ground to the masses in political election, which it's going to take to get reparations for all African people. The Uhuru 3 has at least 50 businesses, and the colonial government doesn't want us to be independent. They want us to depend on them for everything we get, and to depend on the neo-colonialists for everything we get so that they can control us. But the Uhuru 3 has decided not just talking about business and meeting the need. The Uhuru 3 has opened up. We live in a farm desert in St. Louis, a food desert in St. Louis. The Uhuru 3 met that need this summer by last year and other years, they opened up a farmer's market. The Uhuru 3 is opening up a restaurant, creating good food and jobs also. The Uhuru 3 has many health programs, but for example, even basketball itself is a health program because Uhuru 3 pull the children from out of the street and have them involved in constructive activities and giving them an alternative. And also Uhuru 3 has taken vacant buildings in the city where dead bodies were found. They create mental health issues because those buildings were boarded up, falling down. They have taken those buildings, opened up a meeting place, opened up a rental center, also has opened up, and that building that the restaurant was closed. So that is why the Uhuru 3 is being attacked. I say three things. Not one step backwards, not one day in prison. Free the Uhuru 3.
Uhuru. Free the Uhuru 3. Uhuru. Really want to appreciate that statement by Alderman Jesse Todd, because one, you were on the ground in St. Louis, and for you to, remind us about these economic institutions that have transformed the north side of St. Louis, which is a part of the, African People's Socialist Party's 50-year trajectory of economic and political power. I just think that's really important that you brought that to our attention, and just want to salute your statement and your commitment to this fight. Uhuru, comrade. Uhuru, thank you so much. And last but never the least, I'm very excited to introduce comrade and sister Belinda Parker Brown, who is the CEO of Louisiana United International. Someone, a comrade who has been, since day one, a very powerful force in the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, and is also, an unindicted co-conspirator facing charges as well. And so we understand that, again, when we say touch one, touch all, we're taking this whole fight back, under our wing, and we want to salute and appreciate you, comrade, you and your husband, Carl, who I would have to also mention, who was there every day, on the ground in St. Pete. So great to have you on, comrade Uhuru.
Uhuru. I am so happy to be a part of this webinar that we're having right now. This is really serious. And that it is, I'm telling you, it just brings such a glimpse of hope, such a refreshing feeling to know that to be a part of such a powerful movement that is fighting back in such a profound way. I just feel so good about it, because I cannot believe that we're in the 21st century, that our government, the United States government, is still getting it wrong. When we got the whole world on the World Wide Web, it's nothing that is secretive anymore. It's a fact that they don't want Black people here in the United States of America to fight for their self-determination. They don't want us to speak up and speak out against what our government have done wrong to us for so many years. And if my understanding, I'm not a person that would study so much about our history, but I'm not ignorant to the fact that this has been going on in our country for over 600 years, people. The chairman have been in this fight. He have given his entire life, over 60 years to this fight. And I'm here to tell you that why in God's name that the United States government would bring charges against the Uhuru 3 for fighting for our self-determination, liberation, peace and reparation and social justice for Black people here in the United States that have been done wrong for all of these centuries. Why are we still in this fight? Why haven't our government realized by now that we are determined to be free? And nothing is going to stop us. No Russians. No, we don't need no help from no outside sources to tell us what to do, when we already know what our government have been doing to us. I'm a victim of it. My family, it goes back all the way back. When just look at this, people. This is the fact. If we know that that is all on YouTube, it's all on social media now, that the FBI conspired to have Dr. Martin Luther King assassinated, Malcolm X, all of our civil rights leaders that were fighting for self-determination, reparations, to liberate Black people here in America from the oppressors, the colonizers, the one that wanted to, that is determined to keep us down. And it was their whole, they conspired and conspired against us. They did all of this stuff to us. We know what you did. So why are we in a trial right now for you to incarcerate, Jesse Nevels, this young man, Penny Hess, this young woman, the Chairman O'Malley Yesatelli that's been doing this for 60 years, and we're in solidarity with them to get our freedom, and you want to go after these people to tell them that somebody else got to tell them what's wrong with what y'all been doing to us? No, you got it wrong. Our government got it wrong. And I'm telling you, I am fed up with the fact that y'all think you're going, for some reason or another, you're going to get away with this. You're not. You're not going to get away with this. And the FBI, you're not going to get away with this. Because you got it wrong when you came after the Uhuru 3. And Uhuru means freedom, people. It means freedom. Freedom for Black people here in America that's been oppressed by our own government, that's been beat up and bullied by our own government, that have dragged us through the mud, that have wrongfully incarcerated and here in Louisiana. Look at the mass incarceration. To lock people up and throw the key away to make slaves out of them. That's our government that's doing that to us. So I just want to say that we are determined to fight back in this fight. And we're not going to continue to let y'all, put the rope around our neck and drag us into these de facto courtrooms and do this to us, because it's wrong. It's wrong what you're doing. You can't silence us. And I hope y'all heard the chairman's granddaughter that spoke so profoundly about the fact that the government lied and we told the truth and y'all lost. So I just want to say that it's our time now. This is the opportune time for Black people here in America. And I'm telling you, just being in the presence of that courtroom to see how impressed the judge was and the jury. Those people, we packed out the courtroom, we packed out the overflow room, standing on the courthouse steps there in Tampa. I'm telling you, people, if you needed to be there, it was a historic moment. It was a great feeling for people to show up and be there, to stand with the Uhuru 3, to fight back against our government because they got it wrong. They got it wrong. They came in the courtroom with just a whole boatload of lies. A boatload of lies and confusion. And I want to say this because I'm telling you, I sat there in that courtroom, and when they it was so confusing. The government was so twisted. They were so twisted with their lies. And it was just a disgrace. It was a disgrace to see that they're spending all of this money, all the taxpayers' hard-earned money on a bogus trial like this. How could that be? So I see the judge was doing everything to protect himself from this, but the judge saw right through it. He saw right through it. And he did everything to protect himself from what the government was trying to rig up in that courtroom. They was using, weaponizing, information. It was just so confusing, all the way to the point where the jury was confused about what decision they had to make. It was just, I'm telling you, it's a sick shame. It's a sad, sick shame. And I want to say to the people now, be a part of this. I'm telling you, this is tremendous hope for us as Black people here in America to stand in this in solidarity with the Uhuru 3, to be a part of this. I'm telling you, it is just an overwhelming, hope for us right now, because we're on the blink of we are victorious and we are winning. The struggle, I want to say this out of my own mouth, the struggle is over now because they've been caught. They've been caught. The government have been caught, and the truth is out now that they can no longer do this to us and think they're gonna get away with it. So on that note, I just want to say, Uhuru, freedom.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. Really want to salute that statement. And while you were speaking, Comrade Ali put in the chat, the US government picked up a big rock and dropped it on its foot. They've always got it wrong, just to state what you were saying. And so yes, this is really powerful. It's great to have you there on the ground. And we want to call on people to be there on November 25th for the sentencing. Feel, not just to feel, what it felt like, but to be a part of changing the world, literally a part, of the shift that is happening globally. And to just the last thing before we bring up our next speaker, who is our main speaker, just to, reiterate what Sister Belinda Parker Brown said about just the amount of resources wasted on this trial, and that the, Justice Department, with their budget, they called for more money, from the US government, using this case, the Uhuru 3 case, as an example for why they need more, an increased budget in 2025, using, these laws for political reasons to come at the people. And so it is not a joke. This is real. And this fight back is, unprecedented in so many ways. So I just wanted to do a quick reminder to remind people to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. Help us continue to build this legal defense, because as we have said, we will appeal and repeal, all of these charges. And to say that I'm going to just put down a pledge for $25. So if anybody does want to match me, you can do that by going to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And I'll make sure that pledge is in by the end of today's webinar. So it is my honor now to introduce and bring up Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Chairman who is, the strategist and the leader of this Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, and really want to, just salute our leadership, the chairman, and also, again, just wanted to reiterate Deputy Chair, who was there on the ground with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, helping to put the chairman's political theory into concrete action in terms of what you see on the ground with the Black Power Blueprint. But this is why they've attacked the chairman, who is the main target. It's an honor to have you here, Chairman, and I will turn it over to you. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Moise. I'd like to also appreciate the fact that you did mention Comrade Deputy Chair Onazane Yeshitela, who is my wife, and who was in that house when we were attacked on July 22nd, July 29th, 2022. And who, as you mentioned, has been responsible for carrying many of the economic development programs that we have created. That's part of the whole anti-colonial and decolonizing project, and which in many ways represent an essential basis for the attack that was made against our movement. The fact that we were actively, materially, consciously involved in whole destructuring or decolonization project. So I wanted to say that, and I also need to mention that, and because if we recognize, and we must recognize that this attack was on the African liberation movement, and if we recognize the role, and everybody who's in this movement, or most people do recognize the role that has been played by Comrade Onazane Yeshitela, we also have to recognize the fact that mentioning her and putting her forward like this is a part of our need, our attempt to provide some element of security for her, that people know who she is, other than our own movement. I also just wanted to say that this movement, this coalition that we have been able to pull together just around this fight back against this counter-offensive, as we characterize it, represents the victory. And this is a political trial that we're engaged in now, and that the law is something that's simply being used to carry out political objectives. But it's too late, because the political objective for the African People's Socialist Party has been to pull together, rebuild the African liberation movement itself, to complete the revolution that was started in the 1960s, or rather that was defeated in the 1960s. The work that was done by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was the bridge between the anti-racist or anti-racial civil rights movement and the Black Power anti-colonial movement. And I want to appreciate everybody who's here, and so many of you I've known and worked with for a very long time, and going through this process and seeing the victory that we've already achieved by your presence, it really made me teary. And you're exposing me, and people are beginning to learn that I'm really a sheep in wolf's clothing, because I tear up just to see this great victory that we have right here with your presence, and the people, many of whom I've worked with so many years, and some I've recently come to work with, but we're on a common trajectory. I listened to Comrade Belinda Parker Brown right now, who in many ways has carried the brunt of so much of our struggle there in Louisiana, not by herself. I mean, she's been an extraordinary organizer, but she's been up against a huge machine, and few people are even familiar with, too few people, with the struggle of our people in Louisiana. It hasn't been on the radar as much as it should be. But because of this movement, because of the Black is Back Coalition, because of the Hands Off Uhuru forced free speech anti-colonial movement that we've created, she's no longer alone. And that's true for everybody who is participating in this coalition, participating in this Hands Off Uhuru. We're no longer alone. We have finally achieved the capacity to give a coherent trajectory to consolidate the movement against colonialism. All of us have been doing work by ourselves, and some seriously, fiercely doing this work. But now we have a collective mission that we are all conscious of, and that we all project against colonialism, for self-determination. We're not just talking about empty slogans against racism or that Black Lives Matter, et cetera. We're saying that colonialism is a concrete manifestation in the lives of the people, and that we have to have concrete solutions to overturn this relationship, as opposed to having wishful thoughts and that one day white people would like us, or a good Negro would get elected president or selected president of the United States. So I wanted to just make this acknowledgement. And also that I want to salute the comrades who in Europe who are part of this movement, the comrades who will be involved in their own actions on November 25th, when we are at trial in Tampa, Florida, who will be doing events in Europe at embassies, who did events in Europe at embassies on September 3rd, when we first went to trial. Comrades in Africa, we have so much appreciation for you, recognizing the kinds of contradictions that you have to overcome in order to do this. Some comrades marched 8 miles. I think that was in Sierra Leone to get to the airport as a part of the demonstration. People went to the embassy in Pretoria in South Africa, and in the embassy, U.S. embassy in London, England. This is the kind of activity that we've shown. It's extremely important. I want to appreciate it, and knowing the difficulties that you have in some areas of the world trying to push this forward. But as we recognize, this is a part of the overall struggle of African people to be free, to be liberated. So I also wanted to say that a critical factor to comrades in Africa and Europe, and to everyone who's here, that you are the critical factor in terms of the political victory over the Russian agent charge, and that's not a little thing. And we really had to win that. We brought people. 12 people who didn't know anything about us. There were actually 16 when you account the alternate jurors who sat there as well. 16 or 18, I've forgotten how many now. But we these were just ordinary people. I'm sure that most of the people didn't engage in discussions around anti-colonialism or colonialism or international affairs, Ukraine, all these questions before this trial. But this trial, in a very short, compressed period of time, we provided political education for all of those people on that jury. And not just on the jury, but in the courtroom too. People were affected. Some of us who've known each other for long periods of time, but we've only known each other in this instance, where in this organization, this question, this political question, but we haven't known each other so that people would know who we are in terms of the tactics and strategies that we've been working on now for 60 years, almost, in terms of developing the fight to liberate African people as a part of a project of overturning a social system based on parasitism and slavery. But people got that, and they got it as a consequence, not of us personally sitting on a witness stand, but because our lawyers were able to get into evidence, play videotapes of me speaking in Moscow, in Russia, so people could hear what I had to say when I was there, and that they could see that I was not there as some kind of Russian flunky, but I had my own mission representing African people who were there. They could see us involved in some of our own meetings. So they had statements of our own meetings. They saw the integrity of our movement. That somebody's going to talk about we involved in some kind of conspiracy with white nationalists from California who lived in Russia, who's taken money, who admittedly took money from the Russians for whatever purposes, I don't know, and who talking about they're there in order to take California for white people, a secessionist move. They were able to hear what our statement was, that there's no circumstances under which we would do something like that. We have absolute, total, unconditional solidarity with the Mexican and other indigenous peoples in this country. The jury heard that. They saw us say that. They saw a lawyer step up in his opening statement and go, Uhuru, 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 and said, I'm saying this because you're going to hear this throughout the trial. Uhuru means freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, et cetera, et cetera. They were able to hear those kinds of things, see the videos, go back and look at the Burning Spear newspaper from the 1970s, talking about genocide, talking about reparations, talking about all these critical things that they say function as overt actions to work for the Russians. They saw we were doing this stuff going back in the 70s before Russians ever thought of the stuff that we are talking about. But the fact is that it has already been mentioned, this wild kind of verdict that we saw. I appreciate the courage of that jury who denied them the conviction on working for the Russians, because that was the foundational charge. And that was the charge that is so dangerous and so threatening to African people in particular, because this has been the history of the struggle we've been involved in to be able, the United States used us to absolve itself against any criticism being made of the government and the treatment of Black people in this country. So what they're saying is there's no such legitimate criticism, that the United States is a perfect place. It has no history. There has no oppression, exploitation of African people. It is not responsible for the lifespan difference between Africans and white people. It is not responsible for the conditions of police murder and things like this. This stuff doesn't exist in the real world. This is just something Russians or somebody else created. This has been the history of this relationship we've had. But we rescued the African liberation movement in this project. And when they said, and we talked about it, the people, our lawyers talked about it, they showed the videos, they showed other statements that we made. We are a revolutionary organization. Our objective is to have political power over our own lives as a people in unity with other oppressed people around the world. That's what we are. We are for Africans here, Africans around the world and on the continent of Africa. The jury heard that. And the jury heard me described as a revolutionary. The jury heard me described as somebody who couldn't be bought because I'm a revolutionary. The jury heard all of the stuff we put forward, and they said that the government was lying when they said we were working for Russians. And that was really important. That was an important victory for us. But we have faced this other ridiculous situation of having to defend ourselves against a conspiracy charge when nobody can tell us what the damn conspiracy is, because they liquidated the critical question that we were supposed to be conspiring to do. So those things haven't been done according to the jury. But this is serious because their intent is to put me in prison and put Jesse and Penny in prison for up to 5 years. And as we said, it's a political trial. And the charge itself is a political charge. The actual crime that they talk about is a political crime that was created for political reasons. We're going to take that on, and we're hoping that you will participate in us getting rid of that law that's trapped and been responsible for imprisonment and slander of so many people in the past. This is part of the things that they have given us the responsibility to do, to get rid of that law, to take that law on. So we're not just fighting to defend ourselves. We are making a counteroffensive against even the very foundation, the law that they use to try to put us in prison forever. So we can't tell what the outcome of this is going to be. We can't say what the sentence is going to be on November 25th, but what we can say, this is a political trial, which means the people are primary in terms of helping the judge and the court to understand what is good for it and what is good for them, whether or not it's a good in their interest to go against the obvious will of so many people, so many organizations, et cetera, who recognize that we are not criminals, who recognize that the crime, if there is one that's been committed against us, committed against African people, committed against the colonized people here. So that's something crucial to understand. And we said that we are not, we're saying that not a single day in prison. That has to be our stance. That has to be what we go to Tampa recognizing. And so we're calling on everybody. Do the letter writing, write the letters that's been talked about, write them the way they've been talked about. So if they get 500 letters or more from people for each of those of us who they've got on, who they will be sentencing on the 25th, we can't say what they're going to do. But write them anyway so that they have the burden of being able to say, yes, this means something, or we don't give a damn about 1,500 people total or more who vouch for these people. We say come to the mobilization that we're going to have, the Black is Back mobilization that we're going to have on November 2nd in Washington, D.C. and in Los Angeles, California. Bring hundreds of people there. And recognize, just as it happened last year. Remember last year we were having this mobilization, November mobilization, that was the 15th annual mobilization that we had called on everybody to show solidarity and unity with the African liberation movement, to come there as an anti-colonial, act of anti-colonial solidarity. We asked everybody to do that, and only to have a single organization to intervene, a white nationalist organization to intervene and to try and play the Palestinian and the African liberation movement against each other. And even when they had an opportunity to support, give solidarity to the Black liberation movement, they didn't do it. In fact, they pitted the African liberation movement against the Palestinian movement, when we know, in fact, that it's been the African people who supported the Palestinian liberation movement at a time when there was not a single white organization willing to do it. When all of the white liberals and many of them carrying the hammer and sickle, when all of the white liberals took their money, took their resources, and refused to support Palestinian, Africans did it. So we are engaged in a single struggle against colonialism. And more than that, we recognize that we're dealing with not just a colonial policy as we have understood it in the past, but a mode of production that has come into existence within which the whole world participates in creating and recreating life. And it's a whole mode of production that impacts everything that all the people do, and that the very foundation of the capitalist system rests upon the oppression and exploitation of Africans and indigenous people here and peoples around the world who are starving, who have been pushed into near oblivion as a consequence of the existence of this system. It's a colonial system. It's a colonial mode of production. It is the colonialism that responsible for what happened to Comrade Ice Baker and the organization he's associated with because of their support, their solidarity with the struggles against colonialism. That's what had them jacked up. It's the colonial issues having to do with the indigenous people on this land, who, even as we have this discussion, there's no discussion, there's no apology, there's nothing that says that they've done something horrible to the indigenous people. In fact, if we criticize it, it's the Russians who told us to criticize it. Well, we're not accepting that. And we have come to the conclusion that we can win this struggle because theirs is the profound contradiction, because they built this they built everything, all of their hopes, all their dreams, all their aspirations to be fulfilled requires the exploitation, the theft of resources, the enslavement of Africans and the vast majority of the people of the world, and we will be free. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru, Chairman. Wow. Yeah, so powerful. And I'm kind of, I got speechless at the end right there. But I just wanted to say, because you just went over so much, but just in terms of the importance of this period and what still has to be done. I think that's the message. We want people to walk away knowing that, you know, yes, this is political victory. And in so many ways, comrades, we are going to continue to fight this. And we really want to call on people to be there on the ground in Tampa, Florida for the sentencing, to stand with the Uhuru 3. Chairman, you mentioned Freedom Road, Joe Eisbaker. He just had to leave, but he did say that that those comrades will be there for the sentencing hearing as well. And so we want other comrades to do the same. And I just really want to salute your leadership, Chairman, and that powerful overview. Uhuru.
Well, Comrade Moise, I just want to say, I'm glad to see the stance by Eisbaker and some of the other forces who joined, because this contributes to our ongoing process of breaking down the absolute solidarity of what has been characterized as the white left or the white population with the colonial project. The problem we've had in the past is that it's been people who characterize themselves as leftists who had the most persuasive and sometimes characterized as scientific explanations of why African people didn't have the right for self-determination, why Mexicans didn't have the right for self-determination, why all of us were simply footnotes to facilitate the acquisition of political power by what they have characterized as the white working class. And so they will put brakes on our movement. But now this project that we're involved in now has elevated the anti-colonial movement to the leadership. And I think that's a critical thing that we see now, and it gives us the opportunity for the first time ever to see the emergence of a real revolutionary anti-imperialist movement under the leadership of colonized peoples. Uhuru. Thank you, Comrade. That's around Eisbaker.
Yes, right on. Yeah, exactly. And this is building the anti-colonial free speech movement, human rights struggle. That this is this is ours for the taking, and we are rewriting history, although they tried to rewrite it in that courtroom, but not on our watch. Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny, I did see Comrade Sister Afia's hand was up and then went back down, and we do have a brief moment for questions and comments. We're going to turn it to our appeals team really quick for an update, and then open it up, and then we're going to move to close. So. Chairwoman Penny, did you want to say anything before you introduce the appeals?
Well, Comrade Amanda is right here to talk about the appeal. Chairman, I just really want to salute your powerful presentation and leadership over this entire process, and we are winning, and I am proud to be on the winning side. Uhuru. Comrade Amanda.
Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny, Chairman Wazy. I'm going to let the AV team bring up the PowerPoint that we have, but I just want to start off by saluting this incredible webinar today and saluting the Uhuru 3 chairman, and just say that this was the first phase of the victory, the not guilty verdict on being Russian agents, and having the jury say that we work for the liberation of African people all over the world. And we're on to phase 3, and that's going to be another victory that we put into our books for, overturning this conviction. And it's because of all of you, all of your incredible support, that we have been able to move forward with this victory. So my name is Amanda. I am the leader of the fundraising committee for Hands Off Uhuru. And, like I said, all of the amazing support that we got from your donations over the past over 2 years has made it possible for us to bring this movement out into the world, speak to the people, and hire an amazing, brilliant legal team. So you can go to the next slide. So this is what the US government did not expect. They thought that they could drain this movement of resources, scare away supporters, and intimidate the Uhuru 3 into folding, but they did not know who they were messing with. and you stood up and you showed them how far and wide the support for the Uhuru movement goes. You showed them, as we heard today, that when the people stand up and fight back, we win. You can go to the next slide. So we also want to salute the invaluable contribution that was made by attorney Leonard Goodman and his law partner, Angela Rainey. Leonard Goodman has been working on this case pro bono, and he brought Angela onto our team as well. And we want to also salute the brilliant work of Mutaki Akbar, Addie Griffin, and Tom Inskeep. And as the chairman said, this dream team was a nightmare for the prosecution. Go to the next slide. And all of them will be on the team again for the appeal process moving forward. So we're going into phase 3 now. This is the most important phase. The government was dealt a very serious blow with the acquittal of the foreign agent charge, but the fight continues as we move forward and demands that the bogus conspiracy conviction be thrown out by the courts. And in the process of appealing this conviction, Chairman Omali Shatella, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville must be allowed to move freely to continue their work fighting for the liberation of African people. So
And that's a pretty amazing picture of Chairman Omali Shatella. That was in the New York Times, by the way.
Yes. So the next slide here, this chart is just what your donations have gone to over the past 2 years. And I want to just take this time to salute the amazing fundraising team who, every single donation that comes in, we work together to determine and make sure that those funds are being used in the best way possible to forward this fight back. So all of those funds are used, in the way that we see fit. So you can go to the next slide here. So the goal for phase 3, the remaining of what we need to raise to pay for all of the expenses that include, retaining the lawyers for the appeal process, promotional work, logistics expenses, communication expenses, things like that is going to be $89,000, which can be raised over the next 2 years leading up to the end of the appeal. You can go to the next slide. So the goal for today was $2,000, and I want to announce that we have made that goal. So we are over that goal. So I'm going to read the names of everyone who has donated and just thank you all so much. And again, you can continue to donate while I'm reading through these names and consider becoming a sustainer of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. That allows us to know how much money we can expect every month. Again, it's what we need over the next 2 years. So giving $50 a month, $100 a month, even $10 a month really adds up over time, especially when all of you watching today sign up to do that. So I want to thank Jason, who gave $25, Leah, who gave $250, an anonymous person gave $50, Francis gave $100, Elizabeth gave $100, Phyllis gave $1,000. So Uhuru,
she's from St. Louis, by the way.
And she's from St. Louis, Uhuru Phyllis. Dawn gave 20, Cam gave 100, Dawn Lawson and Cam Howard, who we heard from today. Susan gave 50, MQ, Uhuru, gave 40, Anne gave 50, Allison gave 150, Kitty is going to give 50, Becky gave 100, Stephen gave 50, Barbara gave 75, Robert Brown gave 25, Patrick gave 40, a different Anne gave 40, Mark gave 50, Janine gave 100, another Mark gave 100, James is going to give 5, Kara gave 50, Chimwezi we heard is going to give 25, Belinda Parker Brown, who we heard from today, gave 50, and then Jamila gave 40. So I want to just salute all of those people. I'm going to give 25. And Penny Hess is going to give 25. So with all of those donations, that brings our total today up to $2,710. So,
all right.
And I want to see if we can get that number up to 3,000 before the end of this webinar. And I want to see if we can do that in sustainer income. So if you just give me a moment, I'm going to do the math and see what 290 over the course of 24 months is. So that's almost $7,000. So if you wanted to contribute today and become a sustainer, all of you together totaling $290 a month, that would cut down to that overall goal by about $7,000. So it really makes a tremendous impact becoming a sustainer today. We go back to this here. You can go to the next slide. And we just want to appreciate, some of the people that came to the trial. You saw some of them earlier and you heard from many of them today. So your presence there made a tremendous difference. Your contributions made a tremendous difference. And Even if you cannot physically be there in person on November 25th, you can be there with us by donating today. So, Uhuru. And the way to give, last slide, is you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, and you can make checks payable to Hands Off Uhuru and send them to Hands Off Uhuru at 2654 Gravois Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. Uhuru.
$20 from Bakri.
$20 from Bakri.
Uhuru. Wow. Wow. Just really want to salute that amazing appeal that was brief as usual, because we have such a profound base that is continuing to grow of supporters, and that, all of us want to see this through to the very end. So I just want to salute all of the donations that came in on today. Thank you so much to our appeals team, who has done a remarkable job of helping us to, steer how, how we raise these resources and how we can do the math to, make it easy on us and make it harder for the state. So thank you, comrades. Uhuru, we are winning. Uhuru. All right, so we are moving towards the close of today's very dynamic event. Comrades, we're going to have some brief announcements for you to take home with you. Our chat moderators will make sure that all that is in the chat. There are just a couple of questions that came in throughout the webinar, and some comments that I'm just going to read briefly, and then I see Comrade Sister Afia, if you have something that you would like to contribute, I saw your hand up. Please do chime in after I'm just done briefly reading these questions. So, and of course, Chairman, if you have anything that you would like to add on the Uhuru 3, anybody on the call, please do. So just to say, one of the questions that came in, this was during the letter writing campaign overview by Comrade Chair Aisha. And MQ wrote, should we mention our organizations in the letter, such as like Impedum, Black is Back, ANWO? And the response is no, we don't need to put our organizations or our organizational affiliation in the support letters for the Uhuru 3. Just your name is fine. So I just wanted to get that question read. Also, we have here Comrade Mark Friedman, who wrote, this was earlier on in the program, said that there are national and international protests on the weekend of October 26th and 27th, when the United Nations votes to end the blockade on Cuba. And he says, we in the Uhuru 3 defense should be at all these actions, where I guarantee that we'll be allowed to speak and explain the upcoming November 25th sentencing and need people there. So that's really important. We'll make sure that that's up on our events page so that comrades can know how to follow these events, and to make sure that we can get on the platform and let people know to get to Tampa. Comrade Cam Howard, I just wanted to read one of your comments that you put earlier in the program. You said the most lenient sentence is time considered served. You said, which would be the time spent in custody, being processed after the indictment. Next, the next most lenient sentences are probation or home monitoring, not 1 day in jail for the Uhuru 3. And yes, not 1 day in jail, definitely for the Uhuru 3. And also, yes, and then MQ just had another comment just saying victory to the Uhuru 3, not 1 day in prison for Leonard Peltier, not 1 day in prison for the Uhuru 3, free Leonard Peltier, not 1 more year, and victory to the Mexican and Indigenous people. So just wanted to salute everybody in this process. So let me see here. Am I missing any questions or anything that you see, Comrade Penny?
Uhuru. No, let's see. Nope. I mean, this has been what a powerful event today. This is exhilarating, and just again, the deep appreciation for all of the supporters who have stood there fiercely in solidarity with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru 3, and just such confidence that we are winning. I just salute the leadership of the chairman, who has been the political strategist for this entire, and legal strategist for this entire case, and is just absolutely brilliant as always. So Uhuru, and I see Comrade Afia has come on.
Uhuru, Sister Fia.
Well, my hand was up at first just because of my, because I'm not a techie and pushed the wrong button. But in the meantime, two thoughts did come to me. And one is that we have filed on behalf of the Uhuru 3 with the Permanent Forum of People of African Descent, a notice of the travesty of this assault by the U.S. government, calling upon the judge to dismiss the verdict, notwithstanding the jury's decision, given the fact that they had no facts on which to place that, even the minor charges.
Thank you. So that was filed with the United Nations.
That was filed with the United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, which will be heard after the fact, but as a part of the record, the hearing, the session of the meeting of the forum is April this spring in New York. And of course, you all have had opportunities to present information, including the video of the assault, to the UN working groups. So they have a point of reference on which to rely beyond our complaint, which I believe we've sent you all a copy, but if not, I will resend it to you.
Please resend it. Thank you.
So that's to set aside the conviction.
Right.
Notwithstanding the verdict.
Right on.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's very powerful. Thank you so much, Comrade Sister Afia. And yeah, we'll make sure that if you resend that, so we can make sure that we have that on record. And yes, and to put all of this in record, this is, as the chairman says about, colonized people, we are the, objects of history, and the colonizers, the subjects of history. And here we are rewriting, all of that. So that's really powerful. Thank you so much, Comrade. And salute to your work. And, as an expert on the UN policies and, work, it's really an honor to have you, Sister Afia. And there are some questions. There's one more question in the Q&A chat. I don't know if Comrade Director Aisha is on. Perhaps you can answer this. And if not, Comrade Ann, I'm going to forward your question and have somebody get back to you. Your question is, can you give some, okay, I thought I heard. Can you give some guidance on how to tell our stories if they are about work within these organizations? Comrade Ann is a member of USM, for example, and I think you're asking about how to, write your letter as a member of USM. And so I think perhaps maybe Penny, I know you've been working with the committee and knowing how to fashion these letters. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I see Director Aisha is still on. I don't know if she can.
Yeah. Okay.
Here she is. Okay. Great.
Okay, Uhuru.
Uhuru, I think we have some really great examples, including comrades who are members of Uhuru movement organizations on the website as examples for letters. We don't necessarily have to highlight our relationship necessarily to the organization, but we can speak directly to the incredible work that we know that the Uhuru 3 is involved in, and why we think it's important for them to be able to remain outside of prison to continue that work. So if you take a look at the website, handsoffuhuru.org/letters, Comrade Ann, and look at some of those examples, I think you'll find those helpful, in terms of you writing your own letter.
Great. Thank you, Comrade Uhuru. All right, yeah, and Ann says, thank you, Comrade Aisha. Great. All right, well, comrades, as has been said, this is a very powerful webinar. We're gonna move to announcements. Chairman, if there's anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up, I'll turn it to you.
Uhuru, we're winning.
Yes.
Relentless. Vanguard up. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Victory is ours.
Not a single day.
Yes.
Not a single day.
Not one single day. All right, comrades. Well, I want to invite everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/events. This is where we will continue to put all of the upcoming events. So next slide of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So with that, comrades, I'm going to give us a quick overview of the next and upcoming events. First is just a reminder, the deadline is October 15th. We are calling on everybody, next slide, to write your letters, submit your letters for the Uhuru 3, go to handsoffuhuru.org/letters. And this is where you can get more information. It's really critical in helping the court to understand the positive impact of, the comrades' decades-long fight for justice and self-determination. You can do this by submitting your letter today, getting others to submit letters before the deadline, which is 2 weeks from which is, about a few weeks away. To help drive this forward, we are calling on everybody to register for the October 5th International Letter Writing Day. This will take place next week, Saturday. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org/write-for-justice. This is how you can sign up for this letter writing party, create your own group of people who come together to write letters for the Uhuru 3. And this is on Saturday, October 5th, beginning at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Uhuru. Next, we want to continue to remind everybody all out for the sentencing hearing on November 25th. That's a Monday. So it'll be at 9 a.m. at the federal courthouse in Tampa, Florida. You can sign up by going to handsoffuhuru.org. Our chat moderators are also putting the link that you can go directly to the form. But if you go to the homepage of the website, you'll see right there, there's 3 things that you can do. One of them is, is the sentencing. So go ahead and click that form and fill out and let us know when you're going to be there. Even if you don't have all the details worked out, we want to know that we can count on you to be there. Uhuru. And as we were coming up again on that time, comrades, the Black People's March, the 16th annual Black People's March on the White House is approaching very soon, November 1st through the 3rd in Washington, D.C. and other locations. Just like last year, we're going to be advancing the right to anti-colonial free speech, not one step backwards, victory to the Uhuru 3. And the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition is very honored to co-sponsor this event with the with the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace and Reparations, 16th annual Black People's March. So register and get more information by going to blackpeoplesmarch.com. Continue to check back there for more details. We want to see these mobilizations take place bi-coastal in Los Angeles, California, and throughout the world as we have done in the past. So blackpeoplesmarch.com for registration. And many comrades were asking about, now with this new, turning post verdict, what kind of propaganda, what do we put out in the world? So we want you to go to our website, handsoffuhuru.org/outreach. This is where you can download the PDF, which is the half sheet of the updated, update post verdict, but also the what you can do, the 5 things that we're calling on people to do, how to take action. So this will be helpful if you're out doing outreach. Print this, put them on your tables, make them large like posters, and get this information out in the world so people know how to support the Uhuru 3. And you can also wear your support by going to handsoffuhuru.org/shop. Purchase any Hands Off Uhuru gear. We are all unindicted co-conspirators at this point. So if you don't have that shirt, make it be known. And we want to really appreciate Uhuru Planet for hosting our shop. And last but not least, follow the campaign on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X and TikTok. We are at handsoffuhuru.org, so stay connected with us there. That's the next slide. And last but not least, Uhuru means freedom. So Uhuru comrades, we are winning and forward to November 25th. Get those letters, write those letters, and we will see you all on October 5th next week at the Letter Writing International Day of Action. Uhuru. Uhuru. Uhuru.